Hey y'all, welcome to the Q&A. It is Friday. I don't normally work on Friday, but this week's been bonkers with winter storm here in Nashville. I got stuck in LA at the NAMM show for an extra day because of the storms here. Finally made it back. School's out for the week because that's how we roll down here. Limbs are down everywhere, but we got power, we got internet, and I missed you, so I wanted to hang out. So rather than, I didn't do a video this week, which I haven't missed many in like 17 years, so I feel like I get a pass. But I missed you, and I thought, let's get on live and let's hang out. I did a little bit of a live stream back at First of all, let me know you can see and hear me, those in the chat. I did a live stream at NAMM, a kind of impromptu Q&A, but I thought I'd do one here and let the email folks come hang out as well, those of you on the email list. So, hi. If we haven't met, my name's Joe. I live here in the Nashville area. I produce music out of a home studio, and I've helped other folks do the same thing for the last almost 17 years, which is wild to say out loud. I started my channel in April 2009. I had hair back then. I didn't have kids back then. Like, it was a whole different dude. And here we are. So, so what I'd love to do, honestly, is make, I just sounded very Canadian. Honestly, would love to just answer your questions. Where are you feeling stuck? Where you need some help, some encouragement? Where you frustrated, or just where you curious about, specifically about music? We can talk about songwriting. We can talk about production, recording, mixing, mastering, the state of the industry, because I just came back from NAMM. You can tell me how mad you are about it being Fender Studio Pro now, and I just won't care. No, I care. I care. I've just heard it all. Let me see in the chat. I see Nate Kelms is here. What is up? It was really good having dinner with you. Thank you. Nate bought my dinner, y'all. My man. Everybody give Nate a thumbs up. He bought me dinner. Stupendous music. I met you at the Presonus booth at NAMM in 2020. That was right before the world ended. I was supposed to go to Hamburg, Germany that May to meet the Presonus software team. And then the world shut down, and I never got to go. I'm real mad about that, because that would have been delightful. We got to make that happen. Heath says, question regarding auto compressors. I'm in a spot to purchase, optical is what you're saying. I'm in a spot to purchase an LA2A, but I've heard that not all of them sound alike. Should I purchase maybe an Audioscape instead? Mainly using on vocal. Man, I don't know. Sorry, I've used them almost exclusively in plug-in form. They're cool. They sound good. They're great on vocals, great on bass. I do not own one, so I have nothing. If I were to buy one, my guess is I would get something from Warm Audio, because I've heard such good things, and they're not super expensive. I could also see myself getting into like a 500 series rack. The plugins are so good. And I am so kind of lazy that I tend to just use the plugins a lot. So I will say I sing through the Presonus ADL 700 if you're familiar with it. Hang on, I'll show it to you. The ADL. They don't make it anymore. The guy who designed it still makes it. Demiola is his name. It's cool. The ADL 600 was like classic 2-channel pre. Then they made this channel strip. They didn't make it for a number of years, but it's got this. It's got a tube pre, full-on compressor, 4-band EQ. So I like singing through the compressor, just because it pushes back when I'm singing. It's like a guitar player playing into an amp that's overdriving a little bit, and the way it pushes back when you sing louder, I like singing into that. So that would be probably my preference. But if I had to sing without a compressor, I would be fine, right? Either a compressor plug-in that I can monitor through while I sing, or I would just not have one, and that'd be fine too. So yeah, I don't think I have a good answer for you. Sorry. Do you think or know if Fender's going to close Baton Rouge? No, because Presonus still exists. Like, the thing people need to remember is Presonus Fender purchased Presonus 3-4 years ago. And like PreSonus still exists. Like Studio One is now Studio Pro. PreSonus mixers, which is one of the biggest selling things they make, that's still PreSonus. So like, yeah, I don't foresee Baton Rouge going anywhere. The entire booth we did at NAMM was, I'd say maybe it felt like about 10 to 20% people from Fender, like, which their offices are in Arizona and California, and then like 80 to 90% Baton Rouge folk. So yeah, they ain't going nowhere. Hallelujah. Let me change something over here. All right. Okay, we'll go back over here. With the new Fender VST, do any MIDI controllers and coders connect better than before? I have no idea. I went through a phase where I tried to use MIDI controllers to control software, and it was too much friction. It never did it automatically. There was always more work, so I just moved back to just a mouse. It just works fine. I like a trackpad so I can move my hand up and down like a fader. I can't imagine the MIDI controlling is any different than it was before. That's my guess. I was 5 when you started, and I'm 21. Listen, you can keep those. Those are inside thoughts. You gotta keep those to yourself. I don't need that. And that's now living rent free in my head. Thanks for that. Keith Chadwick, what's up, my man? Good to see you over here. Hi from Spokane. Spokane is beautiful. I went for the first time last year and was blown away by how beautiful that city is. It's bigger than I expected too, and the whole river running through downtown. I have a question. How do I know if my melody and my composing is safe about copyright? Okay, so I don't like the way this clicking thing is working. I have probably the wrong answer from a technical standpoint. Here's my take. If your music is so good that people are stealing it, you probably have a lot of great things going on. Bigger picture, I think for most people, myself included, our music isn't so good that people are stealing it. So it's a thing. This may not be true for you, but I think for a lot of people, they get to a point where they've made some music and they're getting to the scary part of putting it out into the world. And your brain, being such a smart organ, comes up with this idea of, let me find something to postpone putting out the music because that scares me. But I could get lost in the world of copyright for another 3 months. Thank you. Yeah, that's very kind. Thank you. Certainly not required. I'm just here to hang out. So yeah, I would say what was I got distracted. It's a very real possibility that you're experiencing this thing of like, I got to figure out copyright because you don't really want to put the music out there. And there's probably a fear there and you're finding any excuse to not put it out there. We do this thing. We have this. I just finished this book. This book right here by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap. Fantastic. But it talks about, those of you who are Gold members, I'm going to talk about this on the Gold podcast. It talks about how like a lot of times we avoid things because we have a intolerance for pain. So we're trying to avoid pain. So we may not release that music because it might hurt. People might say bad things. We might be embarrassed. And that's certainly true. But on a different level, what this book proposes is that it's not so much a pain intolerance that we have as a pleasure intolerance, as a success intolerance, where we might not put it out because it might actually be successful and we don't know how to handle that. So we kind of tend to sabotage ourselves. That's getting deeper than what you're asking. But I wonder, XY3150, if this is coming from a place of you're scared to actually put the music out there. So you're finding some other excuse to not have to put it out for a while. And if that's the case, I would dig into that. Like, what's going on there? Why not just put it out there? Bigger picture, I've never officially copywritten my music, meaning registered it with whatever. I took a copyright law course in college. It was a graduate level course. Someone else I'm not a lawyer, someone else who is a lawyer can probably speak to this. But the way I understand it, if I put the song out first, that's proof that it's mine. And so as long as I can say, hey, see this album that was released in 2010? You just ripped off my song. This is mine. Bigger picture, though, what are we even talking about? Because nobody, for the most part, most people aren't making music from the copyrights of their songs, right? Most musicians aren't making much money from streaming. So the copyright thing is almost even more of a non-issue because that's not the primary like revenue generator for people anyway. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I had a whole video on this called Copyright Doesn't Matter. It's probably not entirely true, but it's a pretty good headline. Any tips? Oh, great tips. Okay, any great tips on getting the bass right volume-wise and tone-wise? I love the tips you give regarding setting volume, and for vocals, works every time. Skate Toby. Good question. So for me, it's all relative, right? Because we could have our mix volume here and here and here. And then within that level of where our mix is, we could have things all over the place volume-wise. The way I think about it is generally, assuming there's drums, I get a drum mix first. That's just the way I like it. And I get it to where I got a big, powerful kick drum, snare drum, and then the cymbals aren't overpowering. Those are kind of the things I'm worried about initially. And then I want, where the kick drum hits, I want it to have a nice big low end and have some snap. And then I think of kick drum and bass guitar as like twins. I have twin daughters, and they're very similar. I think kick drum and bass guitar are very similar. They're not the same, but they're similar. So I tend to put them together. I don't do the whole sidechain thing where the kick drum hits and it turns the bass down. I don't feel like that's necessary. I've never had a mix where I needed to do that. I just have them both be at roughly the same volume and they sound great together. Why bring sidechaining into this when they're sounding great already? Now, different genres of music, I understand sidechaining can be anyway, if you like to sidechain, go for it. I've just never felt the need for it. So for me, the level is I get a kick drum that feels great. Then I get the bass to that same, not visual level. I'm not looking at a meter, just at the same apparent level where it's in the same ballpark as the kick drum. And then the only thing that might get in the way is 9 times out of 10, if these are the lows, these are the low mids, 9 times out of 10, it sits like this. I'm hearing, man, pardon me. I'm already like coughing over myself, and we're 10 minutes in. So if this is the low mids and this is the lows, this is how it usually comes through in the recording. This is how I want to hear it. I want the low mids to be subservient to the lows. So that usually means for me, I'm going to cut the low mids so that I'm hearing the lows more than the low mids. Generally, usually, there's plenty of low end in the bass. It's just overshadowed by how much low mid is there. It's just the nature of the instrument, I think. There's that low note here, and then there's that octave up, like harmonic, that just tends to be louder and take over. That's why bass can sound kind of flubby and muddy and doesn't have that big, tight low end. Pull some of that down. Now this can shine, and maybe boost this too if you need to. To me, that's the sound of a bass that sounds delightful. Funny, I've been doing this, talking to a camera about music since 2009. I still have moments where I'm like, I am talking to a camera in a room by myself. There are people here. I just did some presentations at NAMM, so there were people in the audience, and it was delightful. I could make eye contact with you. That's why I like the challenges that I do. If you haven't come to one of my challenges, I'm doing one, not next week, but the next week. Better Mixes Challenge. There's a link in the description. You should come. We get to like look each other in the eye because it's Zoom and we can see each other. It's almost as nice as real life. Anyway, but I feel like these Q&As have a place too. So Nate Watts, hey my man, from North Carolina. Patrick from Drag and Drop Records. What's up, Patrick? Patrick, when Fender Presonus was all, since the beginning, when Presonus first launched Studio One, they've been all about drag and drop as like that primary function that is so pivotal. I remember them demonstrating it at Sweetwater when I worked there as a sales engineer. Rick Knockby came and said, hey, we're producing our own DAW. I remember thinking, that's dumb. We don't need another DAW. Pro Tools, Logic, all the Ableton, all of them were out there. And their big thing was drag and drop, and I thought it was dumb and amateur. Come to realize years later, it's super functional and super helpful and super cool. But at one point, I made this GIF for drag and drop. Anybody recognize where this is from? So I'll just randomly use this in presentations when I talk about drag and drop. If anybody gets that reference, I will be surprised. And the dragon comes in the night. Okay. Where did I leave off? I'm going to leave the chat up. I'm going to leave this window up just because so y'all can see the chat too. Is there any documentation on the Studio One .song format? I was thinking of extracting info about what plugins are used. I don't know if there is. I know you can like look at the .song file in a text editor and just kind of see it. There's also the, what's it called? Somebody help me. There's a, actually maybe it's, you can take a song and export stems. Somebody have to tell me. I forget it's called. There's a format that Studio One supports where it's like a universal format where you can open it up, export it as that format, and it'll open up in other DAWs. I think it's called DAW. Anybody know it? They're my Trogdor fans, by the way. Thank you. Nate, the fact that you got that makes me love you all the more. DAW Project, thank you. DAW Project kind of lets you do that. I don't know how well it works. So it's the idea of it's like kind of a universal language of export this as a DAW project, then open it in Cubase, and it will open it with and try to find the similar plugins and settings. Gregor's very passionate about that. I personally don't get the appeal. Just because it's just so easy to share audio files back and forth. Like Nate Kelms is on this. Nate is a Studio One user. I think Nate uses other DAWs too. Even though we're on the same DAW, he's going to have plugins I don't have, virtual instruments. I'll have a virtual instrument he doesn't have. Probably not. It's probably the other way around. So like, even if I send him my session, he's going to open it up. It's not going to quite work anyway. So if I was to hire Nate to play violin on my song, I'm probably going to come in here and probably just send him a WAV file of the instrument of the song, and be like, "Here, please play on this." And if he wants like drums and guitars on separate stems, then I'll send him that. But otherwise, like, here's the tempo, here's the song. Go has music. And Nate nods and says, yep. And then he's going to record however many tracks he records. He's going to use whatever software on his system he wants to use to manipulate that violin, tune it, do whatever he wants to do. Add reverb if he thinks it needs it. And then, because I'm going to let him do his thing. And then he's going to send me back audio files. It's so boring and so easy. And then I just drag those files he sends me into my session. I have everything start at bar 0, so it all just perfectly lines up forever. To me, that is such an easy way to work. I understand collaboration on a song in progress where you're both wanting to work from the same software. I get where that would be valuable in some workflows. I don't use that workflow, so I don't get it as much. But yeah, I just don't really, it just doesn't, maybe this is me being super like, it doesn't affect me, so I don't care. But that's the way I work. I did an EP years ago where it was funny because everybody who played on it had a different DAW. I was in Studio One, Steve was in Pro Tools, Tim was in Digital Performer, Joel was in, what was Reason? Did Reason make a DAW? Was it called Record? And we all recorded at their houses with their DAW. I just sent the latest version with an audio file, and they opened it up and recorded. And they sent me files back. It was just so simple, and you can still absolutely do it that way. Let's have a look. By the way, yes, so this Trogdor is the name of the dragon. It's from this, I guess you call it internet show from like 2003 called Homestar Runner. And there was this guy named Strong Bad, and he answered emails, and he taught people how to draw a dragon, and it was called Trogdor. Anyway, Bernadating the Village. Corey knows what I'm talking about. Look at us. We are older than we like to admit. It's fine. It's fine. I need a better way to go through and see which ones I've seen, but we're going to keep going. Will Fender buy Native Instruments next? I don't know. Something like that makes some sense to have some more like sounds. But Presonus has also been eagerly adding lots of sounds into Studio One. So like if you are a member, I don't know if it's just perpetual or subscription or if both get access to it, but there is like a metric crap ton of sounds that they keep adding, like samples and libraries and stuff like that. So is it as good as Native Instruments. I don't know. To me, it's been cool having all these sounds built in because, again, I get pretty lazy. I don't love installing a bunch of things if I change computers. I like that I can install Studio One, Studio Pro, and it's got all my plugins there, except for the two that I've developed. Now I have to install those, which I think those aren't working quite right. Last I checked. Oh, no, it's working. By the way, if you missed it, I made a compressor. Looks like a cough drop. And it's just super simple. Go check it out. If you go to homestudiocorner.com/GilderComp, that'll take you there. It's fun. It's just a very gentle compressor that it's hard to go overboard with, which I like. All right, back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Even if you have two of the same compressors, they will sound different. Two devices. Back to analog, yeah, probably. Because there's so many things that could go into what makes it, like all the components inside. If it's a 30-year-old analog piece, like who knows what it sounds, right? All the components, two different pieces, different ages, different amounts of use. It makes sense they'd sound different. Same with guitar amps and things like that. Hey, Joe, I've been testing out the God particle. Any thoughts on it? I've not used it. Is that a reverb? This is how out of touch I am. I am kind of out of touch. I don't know a lot of plugins. So, no, I don't have any thoughts on it. Is Fender going to rebrand the control surfaces and digital mixers? As far as I know, the digital mixers are PreSonus all the way. I wouldn't be surprised if control surfaces become Fender because they're controlling Studio Pro. That makes sense to me. I'm not sure how it's all going to land. But no, mixers are still because mixers are a huge seller for PreSonus. Huge seller. Mostly not for studio, but for like live. A lot of churches use them, smaller venues. They fill a gap in the digital mixer market that they've filled really well. Anyway, no, the mixers aren't going nowheres. Hey there, Jose from Spain. Hello, Jose from Spain. We have the same name. Why did you stop? I don't know what that means. Stop the couse and replace it. You're going to have to tell me what you mean. If you mean coarse, I'm not sure what you mean even if you say that. Hey, from Budapest. When I sing live, I kill it. So easy and sounds really good. The minute I record in the studio, very self-conscious, feels like it doesn't sound good. Any tips? Hey, George. So any tips? Some of it may just be repetition. You'll get comfortable if you just do it a lot. The second thing is, it's possible, I'm trying to choose my words carefully. It's possible that you don't sound as good live as you think you do because you're not hearing it, right? You're performing it, so we can't hear ourselves as clearly as like the audience. Now, maybe you've got video of you and you are killing it live and you really are like falling apart in the studio. If so, that's super interesting and totally like in your head, right? Because you know you're capable of the song. So it's just a matter of how can you make yourself comfortable? How can you set up the vocal chain in such a way that it gives you the sound that you need in your headphones, that you feel comfortable doing it. Also, what if you went with a handheld? If you sing a lot with a handheld mic, maybe go that route like Bono. Just sing like you're performing it live. Move around the room. Who cares if it's a little not perfect and pristine? That might be a way to go. The other thing might be that's how you sound both live and in the studio. And so studio, it makes sense that we as a species are very self-conscious. When I play guitar and it doesn't go well, I feel bad, but when I sing and it doesn't go well, it's like my body betrayed me, right? I wanted my body to sound one way and it didn't do the thing I wanted it to do. I'm experiencing that as I'm now in my 40s. My voice is different than it was in my 20s. And it's going to be different when I'm in my 60s, right? It's probably going to weaken and things like that. So I can sing things now that I couldn't sing then, but more, it's usually the other way around. Anyway, the studio gives you a wonderful opportunity to actually pay attention to what you sound like and make some changes. So I have gotten better as a singer almost exclusively because of recording myself, because I have to deal with the fact that, that's what I sounded like. Ugh. Either can I fix it in the mix? Maybe. Or let's go practice. Let's re-record. Let's do it again. And I got no qualms about doing it again. I've had days with vocals, with guitar parts where I've spent hours recording a whole bunch of stuff only to come back the next day and delete it all and start again. And that was absolutely the right decision. So we there's a line between there's perfectionism on one side, and then there's like letting it be bad on the other side, and there's somewhere in the middle where we can get to a place where we're proud of it, even if it's not perfect, because it's never going to be perfect. Got any advice for ear training to recognize problematic frequencies in the low mids? Yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of like ear training apps. I'm not against them. They might be useful. I think for me, just listening to a lot of music and mixing a lot of stuff. Because if you're not, the real thing is that when you start to get to where you can listen and say, there's a problem around 200 hertz. That doesn't come through anything but experience and an intentionality around, do I know what 200 hertz sounds like? So if I say 200 hertz to you right now, I hear it in my head. I hear this kind of headache frequency, I call it. This kind of like that. That to me is about 200 hertz. That's where a lot of the warmth and the muddiness is in the mix. I've dealt with it so much, I know it by heart. So I know how to pull that down. 50 hertz is down here. It's real low. 100 hertz is low. 200 is, these are octaves apart from each other. If you just spent a weekend getting to know exactly what happens at 50 hertz, 100 hertz, and 200 hertz, because they're octaves apart, you'll be a better mix engineer. Because now you'll know, I was over at 200 hertz trying to solve a 50 hertz problem. That's where I would start you. Because all mixing well, I'm going to say something that's overly simplistic, but in a very real sense, I feel like I'm showing so much screen and not like, hi. You can see the chat. I guess I don't need to re-put the chat on the screen. All mixing is level balance, stereo balance, and then frequency balance. And so you got to be good at level balance first. Stereo balance is not that big of a deal. It's pretty easy to get right. And then you have to speak the language of frequencies. So if you don't speak that language, well, of course you're not going to be good at it. So you got to become so fluent in frequencies that you spot them. When something goes, woo, that's about 800 hertz. Like it just kind of, it just comes out of an intentionality of kind of going after it. All right. Leonard, don't need to apologize for your English. You are speaking a second language. I cannot do that. And I am always impressed by people who can. So, you got any advice for ear training? Oh, that was you. Sorry. Romo Drummer. What's up, Romo Drummer? Romo, I might be confusing you with somebody else. Do you live in Nashville? I know we've interacted before. I can't remember if you're in Nashville, or I think Zorro Drummer. I might be confused. Sorry if I'm confusing with someone else. From what I know, as soon as you start to record the music, it's already copyrighted. Yeah. And the flip side of copyright is don't steal. Legacy Shredder. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a copyright lawyer, so who knows? But the big pick, no one's stealing your music. And if I'm wrong, then it's probably someone who's making a lot of money off of it. And so you go do your lawsuit and make yourself some money. Like if Ed Sheeran steals a Joe Gilder song, guess who's happy about it? This guy, right? Because if I can just prove it's mine, which should be easy to do in a digital world where everything has timestamps on it, then I just go, hey, Ed. Right, Owen? Mm-hmm. Yep, see, Owen agrees. I just say, hey, Ed, can I have some of that money? And he says, yeah, you're right. You got me. Right? I think there's only upside. I know there are probably stories of people being oppressed by a system, and I get that, but I don't know. Maybe you all just think higher of your music than I think of mine. Maybe that's my problem. Hey, Joe, what to do with the previous version of Studio One? It takes a lot of gigabytes to store. I would keep at least the most recent one, just in case there's a problem. Like you can't open a plugin or you can't do something. So you can always open that up if you need to. But you can also just delete it and then install it again if you need it. I don't know. That's what I would do. Hey, Joe, I was using audio to MIDI in Studio Pro. It went the process, but didn't show any MIDI notes after it was done. I just did the drag and drop. It sounds like a tech support thing. I have no idea. You have to drag it onto a MIDI track. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry. Hey, Joe, quick question about EQ and compression. I'm currently learning how to do both, but my ears ain't exactly great when it comes to frequencies. Any advice on how to train my ears for mixing? So, yeah, same advice as before. This is going to sound completely self-serving, but look in the description. You'll find a link to a Better Mixes Challenge. It's a 5-day challenge that I do. You can watch the recordings if you can't make it live. We spend an hour or two each day, depending on which ticket you get. And on day 3 of that, I talk all about training your ears. It's a lot of the stuff I just mentioned, but how to systematically go about getting good at it, because that's such the name of the game. And it centers around listening to a lot of good music, centers around developing your own vocabulary for the different groups of frequencies, there's a whole homework assignment that I give where you kind of map out those words that you would use, and that's going to help you learn it too. Joe, you have often said to get it right from the source, which makes sense. But should I EQ and compress for my vocals and guitars when tracking, or should it just be raw without any effects? I don't think there's a should there. The downside of compression is you might mess it up. I've done that. Downside of EQ is you could mess it up, but it's less likely. If you're not comfortable with EQ and compression, they don't feel like second nature to you, I wouldn't do it on the way in. I would just wait and do it. But if you're super comfortable with it, then I say, why not go for it? For me, it's harder to dial in EQ and compression when I'm the one playing or singing, because I'm either hearing the instrument in the room or through my body, or I'm hearing my voice through my head, and it's hard to hear if that EQ compressor is doing anything right. So if that's you, I would lean towards play it safe and just don't. But once you get comfortable with it, it's actually a delightful thing to have, even just a little bit. And you can always add more later. Don't feel like, oh, I compressed during recording, I mustn't compress during mixing. That's not really how it works. You can compress it in both places for sure. Jeff, how much do you think album cohesion matters? I have songs that definitely sound like they all came from me, but there are a few different styles going on. Should I bother to use the word album? Yeah, I mean, we're in a world where I think albums are cool. EPs are cool. I like the idea of being able to sit down and listen to more than one song from you, because one song is like cool, but if I like it, I'd like more. It'd be nice if there was just another one coming up next in the album. Yeah, honestly, I don't think about it too much. Like, is it not cohesive? Fine. Like, who cares? Like, I don't know. That's the beauty of like being independent, is like you don't have a label saying, hey, this isn't cohesive. And you can be like, it's cohesive to me. If you like it, that's the answer. I think a lot of us don't know what we like. And so we look to someone else to tell us what we need to like. But it's okay for you to say, I really like that it goes from this sick reggae beat into a country song into something with a hurdy-gurdy. And I love it. And if you love it, there's your answer. Because if you love it, you're going to do it as to your best ability. And then you're going to hopefully find people who also love it. Will it be everyone? Probably not. It'll be a specific group of people who love that. But that's kind of what we do as artists, right? We try to find people who connect with what we do. This channel, even though I've been around for 17 years, it's not, somebody left a comment the other day, you've been around for 17 years and only have 260,000 subscribers. And I was like, well, if you put it that way, yeah. I'm not for everybody. People say I talk too much. People don't like that I use Studio One, maybe. People don't like that I don't do enough. I don't know. I don't pay a lot of attention to it, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm not for everybody. And that's a good thing. If I had to be for everybody, whew, it'd be terrible. All right. Let me scroll down, make sure there's no emergencies happening down at the bottom. And then let me scroll back up. Who said cool Feral Toms? That's right. That's right. Feral Toms are my jam. Dave Bops, thank you for the gift. That was very kind of you. Oh, I shouldn't have scrolled down. I ruined it. I lost where I was. Okay, here we are. Album cohesion. Kev says, so far as the tone level trick for drums and bass, what about the VU level trick? Works mostly for me. Yeah, VU's cool, because VU's going to be, as I understand it, a little more weighted towards the mids or the lows. I'm not entirely sure. I prefer to just do it with my ears, because that's what matters. Because there could be weird things in the frequencies that cause the VU to line up, but the levels don't really sound right. I'd rather go with these things. These fleshy little things on the side of my head. Those are my go-to. Nate Kelms, you can audit your plugins at the DAW level, and I believe you can also audit plugins within a song. Well, I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm sure he's right. Okay, guys. So you're asking if you can figure it out in the .song format. I don't know. But I bet, because I do know they've left, even though Studio Pro isn't open source, you can literally look at the code on the pages. They didn't leave it like whatever they do to like keep it hidden from the public. You can like see what's there. So I bet you could extrapolate. If you're the coding kind, you could probably extrapolate some sort of. I wouldn't be surprised. It's for someone smarter than me. Shady Elgarf says, thanks for your videos. Always been so helpful. Thank you for saying that. Johnny Mack says, thanks for all you do. Would you recommend using both a multiband and limiter on the master? I'm having issues with my master creating pressure on my eardrums. Okay, so I recommend a limiter for sure every time. That's about the only thing that I do every time. Limiter with some sort of gain, either at the limiter or somewhere else. Usually I'm using a little bit of EQ in mastering, and then sometimes that's it. I've had many a project. I want to say my last few releases in mastering, it was just EQ and a limiter. So the thing you're talking about, something creating pressure on your eardrums, if I had to guess, and I'm having to guess because who knows, my guess is you just got too much low end. My guess is there's too much low frequencies. Those are going to what I think of as pressure on my eardrums is just too much low end. So no, a multi-band limit, none of those are going to solve that. You've got probably a mix that has too much low end. You can maybe fix it in mastering, probably need to fix it at the mix. And it also could be you're just making it way too loud. It doesn't need to be super loud. Luffs, -12, -10, if it's a pretty aggressive tune, can work wonders. Do you prefer SWAM audio modeling VSTs or something VSL stuff for orchestra? No idea. Sorry. I don't even know what SWAM is. I like the orchestral stuff inside of Studio One. The PreSonus Symphony Orchestra sounds delightful. I also don't use it a lot because I mostly record guitars. So when I need to use something like a strings, those actually sound pretty realistic to me. But generally as a background thing. If you hear clickety-clacks in the background, that's Owen. He's playing games over there. He's out of school because we can't handle ice down here. Nate Kelms, talking about collaborating, says, the entire session files make sense when you're sending a song to be mixed, but when collaborating in the production process, WAV files make more sense. Yeah. And even sending songs to be mixed sometimes, I would rather just the raw audio. Because I want to import your stuff into my template anyway. I don't want to see all your crazy plugins you had. Although I've done it before, it's just more work. I'd rather you send me straight up raw files. Do you ever use reference tracks when you are mixing? Almost never. To me, referencing is something I do just regularly by listening to music in my studio. While I'm mixing, I take what I've learned about music and I apply it to the music. I don't feel the need to switch back and forth. Not saying it's wrong, it's just that's where I've landed with it. I'm going to turn this. Do y'all have a view that you prefer? Is this one a little bit better so you can kind of see what I'm reading? I was going to do this on StreamYard because you can highlight a comment, but it only does mono. And if I wanted to play anything music-wise, I wanted it to have stereo. Anyway. When I collaborate with people, I make sure I tell them the bit rate and sample rate of the session. That way it syncs. Yeah. Even that, I don't think super matters because your system will just convert it. It's an unnecessary conversion, technically, but does anybody hear that? Probably not. Greetings from Croatia. Hello, Croatia. Studio Pro looks interesting. Is it better than Reaper? I don't know. The best DAW is the one you know how to use and the one you're making music with. If you're making music with Reaper and it does everything you need it to do, that's your DAW. I like Studio Pro. I've been using Studio One. I switched from Pro Tools to Studio One because it just won me over. But I honestly don't recommend switching. Switching's annoying. Stick with what you got if it works. Hello, Alexander from Kenya. Kenya. I spent a summer, a month in and around Nairobi years ago, 2003. It is beautiful country. Is it a must-have a compressor on my stereo out? No, it's not. It is, man, I keep clicking stuff I don't mean to click. Is it a must to have a compressor on a stereo out? It is not, although a lot of people, myself included, like the way it sounds. So, for example, this is that Christmas song I produced with my kids. What did I put on the main output? Yep. I put this is just the Brit comp, which is basically an SSL on my main output. And as you can see, I always set it like this, ratio 4:1, the attack to 30 milliseconds, which is the longest attack. So it's not like super aggressive. Then 0.1, which is 100 milliseconds release. And then you can see, I'll hit play real quick. You can see it's not, let me go to a loud part of the song. The needle is just barely moving. And if you turn it on and off, it's not like, oh, it's night and day. It's just a little bit. The kick drum is mainly the thing that's driving it. To me, the feeling I get is it feels like the low end comes up and hugs me a little bit more without me having to do anything. That's just kind of the feeling that I get from that specific compressor. And so if I want that feeling, and most of the time I do, that's what I use for it. I was raised by a cup of coffee. Does it have a funny time signature? I didn't even know that. Hey, Frankie. Native Instruments has good MIDI controllers. Will be nice to Ableton. They announced, so go look at the two new, just announced the two new, they're called Fender Motion controllers. It's basically the replacement for the Atom and the Atom SQ. The latest version is pretty sick. I assume they just showed them at NAMM. They have a mode where it's like a chord mode. That's pretty cool on that. Anyway, worth checking out. Not the same as like the Machine and things like that, but it's pretty interesting, I think. J. Mark Swindle, I'm 72 and have hearing damage for playing guitar in bands for 60 years. I struggle with mixing because of loss of certain frequencies. I have to rely on visual for EQ. Any advice? Hire a mixer. I mean, hire a mixer isn't bad advice because at some point, depending on how bad your hearing loss is, you may literally not be able to hear some really important frequencies, like what's going on at like 8K, 10K. So I work a lot with folks who are in their 60s and 70s working on music, and if I had to overgeneralize a theme, generally their mixes come through too bright because they can't hear it, so they're boosting it. However, you can learn, like if you use like the spectrum meter, like this, I like it set like that. And I like the slope thing like this. So like that slope right there, make it a little wider. That's kind of generally what I'm looking for as far as like the low frequencies are up higher than the high frequencies. So like if we hit play on this, my guess is the slope of my frequencies is going to hit that somewhat on that continuum there. Look at this average. I'm probably a little bit on the darker side because this was a darker tune, but like it's in the ballpark. What I see with folks with some hearing loss in the top end, or folks that just get a little too happy with their EQs, is that curve goes more straight across. And so there's more highs, or as much highs as there are lows, and it comes through sounding too bright. So one thing you can do is just make sure you've got this window open a lot when you're mixing. And if you see a big jump up here in the high frequencies, you probably boosted too much. You can probably also just tell yourself, just don't boost the highs. Just don't. Resist that temptation, because generally speaking, you might not have to. But also having somebody who can speak into that and give you some like feedback is also helpful too. So I don't know if you have to necessarily hire a mixer depending on it. You can absolutely learn how to do it, but it would be like if you hired me to mix and said, hey, I'm going to do this on your main output. Good luck. That's going to be hard, right? I'm going to have a hard time mixing that. I could probably still do it, but I have to rely on some tools, right? It's kind of like a pilot. I watch these pilot videos like where they debrief like terrible plane crashes, but I'm fascinated by how much pilots rely on their instruments, because they could be flying through clouds and weather, and so they have to rely on their instruments or they get disoriented. They don't know if their even wings are level anymore. Because here's a fascinating thing. If you go like this, like in a plane, But there's a test they do where you sit in a chair and they spin you with yourself blindfolded, and they tell you to point your thumb in what direction you're moving. And so when they start to spin you, you point correctly. But if you continue to spin, the reason that you felt yourself moving that way is the fluid in your ears shifted over. That made you feel like you're moving that way. But once you're doing it for just a little bit, not super fast, the fluid in your ears kind of settles in that motion that you're doing, and so you start to feel like you're moving straight again, or you're not moving, or they'll even feel like they're moving the other way. So like a plane could be literally flying like this, and they feel like they're flying straight. Anyway, so that's kind of the same idea. You're flying in weather. You can't tell with your ears that your mix is too bright, so let the tools help you there. Sorry, that was a long answer to a simple question. Nate Kelms, not a shameless plug. It's full of shame. I use Gilder Comp a lot. Love that it compresses and brings up the floor without sounding squashed or overly compressed. Yeah, there's an element of it where it gives you, the more aggressive you go with it, the more of the original sound comes through. So that you still get, it doesn't like go wah 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 and like completely clamp things down. It keeps it musical to my ear. I like that. The Gilder cough drop. Ivan Calderon, what's up, bro? Who's your favorite Studio Pro user and why is it me? Absolutely. Y'all, if you're not subscribed to Ivan, and also Nate, especially Nate's podcast, Sound Discussion. But Ivan, can I just go to the channel? There it is. Go subscribe. I know you didn't ask me to do this, but I've met Ivan in person, at least twice now, if not more. Maybe 3 times. But I just got to see him at NAMM. Couldn't be nicer. I mean, couldn't be handsomer, if we're being honest. And does a lot of great content for Studio One. Go subscribe. He has a lot of cool stuff about like a lot of the stuff that I don't know very well. Impact, how to create 808 glides. You'll never see a video like that from me because I don't know what that is or how to do it. So anyway, Ivan's the man. I have a friend whose name is Ivan, and I sometimes have a hard time calling you Ivan and him Ivan. I'm sure you'll be fine with that there. Is Thunderbolt no more? I have no idea. Probably. Everything's going USB-C, which is also... What is it on Mac? They call it something different, which is dumb. It feels like USB-C is going to be the thing for a while because it's on all the phones and also on all the computers, but who knows? I imagine it's frustrating to be an audio device company and they just go switch the stuff. Have you tried Tonalic by Celemony with Studio Pro? I haven't, but a friend of mine works for Celemony. I just met up with him. I hadn't seen him in like 15 years. He works at Celemony and was telling me about it. Is that the one that goes through and will like take care of mouth noise and take care of breath sounds and sibilance, all like with sort of an AI backend? I can't remember, but it sounded cool. It sounded interesting. It sounded like it does a lot of what's the thing RX does, but not as complicated. I walked by the booth. I didn't go get a demo. I should have. My bad. What's the best way to chat with you regarding studio setup advice? I don't really do studio setup advice, so there's probably not really a best way. That's not something I do. I always sing in the studio with reverb and other effects active. Oh, hey, Dan. Because it inspires a better performance than if I record dry. Yeah, I agree. To me, sometimes singing through red light distortion, some sort of just straight up distortion pedal, or like put Gilder Vox on the channel and monitor through it and then just crank the drive and the slapback delay. Like that's just what I want to sing through, which is why I put it in the plugin. It's just delightful. So yeah, I like doing that. Anything to get the performance. Am I right? Am I right? I keep losing my place over here. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Fender VST are great. Doesn't need maybe some of their engineers. Can't say how much I appreciate your content and videos. Thank you, Liv, for more music. Whenever I'm overthinking, your videos help remind me to just relax and enjoy the process. Yeah, man, life's too short to overthink. You got to think enough, and there's a lot of thinking involved, especially if you're early in the process because there's just a lot to learn. But, yeah, just enjoy it, man. I still can't figure out when it's boxy or when it's honky. The adjectives don't make much sense as I'm not a native English speaker. Yeah, you come up with your own words and learn what does it sound like when there's too much at 400 hertz to you? And then start to look for that. What would cause a mix to sound more narrow when you hard pan your guitars and vice versa. It seems like if I go any further than 70 to 30, everything sounds thin and gone. But I don't know. One thing is just if the guitars are too similar in tone, they'll start to monoize themselves, right? Two of the exact same part doubled. One day it sounds amazing, pan left and right. The next day, a different guitar part. They sound so similar that it makes it sound more mono. So that's one of the reasons why people like switch out guitars and amps and even voicings on the guitar so that they're not the exact same thing in the left and right. That will prevent that. Because what happens if two of the exact same things are in left and right, that's what mono is, right? Two slightly different things will sound a little wide, but still fairly mono. Two decidedly different things will now sound nice in stereo. And sometimes you can have the exact same guitar, part, amp, everything, and it will sound delightful. And sometimes if it's just too similar for whatever reason, like dadgad guitar on acoustic, if I do dadgad and I pan one left and right, it almost always sounds kind of phasey and mono. So I end up usually putting, if I have that, putting the open tuning in the middle and putting like a capoed regular tuning thing on the side. Tuning thing on the side. Romo, you're near Charlotte. Okay. And I was wrong. There's another guy named Zorro, the drummer, and I think he lives in Nashville. I think I saw him at a coffee shop recently, but I didn't speak because I wasn't sure if it was him. Do you affect your BGVs on the Vox only, or are you treated on the individual inserts on the way to the aux? Nope, all on the aux. That's the beauty of it. They all need the same sound for the way I do background vocals. So like all of those are wins. Like here's some background vocals. For the most part, I'm just sending them all to the bus and making them sound that way. Now, if there's different type, if they're not all the same thing, I've got different sort of, these are singing ahs, these are singing words, I might have some sub buses for those, or if there's one part that needs some EQ because it's too thick or whatever, I'll do that if it needs it. But generally, I can get the job done just at the bus. Joe, what? This is from Whoops. Why does it jump like that? Oh, man. I lost it. Here we go. Wazfang, what is important? Peak volume or average volume on the fader meter when mixing? When mixing, the only thing is that it doesn't clip. That's the most important thing. If you find that you're clipping, it clips in a section of the song, turn everything down a good 3 to 6 dB, and then turn your speakers up. Problem solved. I promise. It's so easy. You don't have to play that clipping game. And then you'll get it nice and loud in mastering. You don't have to have it. You can have a really quiet mix and a huge loud master because it does not matter. You don't have to get the mix nice and loud. Because what happens is it's clipping, you turn your tracks down, but you innately want the volume a little bit more. That's why you kept pushing them up. That's probably the right decision, but it keeps clipping. So instead of putting a limiter on there or fighting against the clip light over and over, turn the tracks down, turn your speakers up until they're at that volume that you liked before, but now the tracks are lower and you can push things and make it sound nice without playing that game. It's like such simple advice. Most people won't follow it. It could change your life. It's so hugely important. It's like the very essence of gain staging, and nobody thinks about it. Not nobody. It's just, I had an example. I was in a studio with a client, hired me to come to their studio for the day, was having a problem with their drum mix or their bass mix. I said, well, let's just listen to it. Hit play. I promise the speakers were at maybe 50 dB. It was like background music at like a spa. It was just very quiet. And I said, well, yeah, you can't hear the bass at this volume. Turn it up. And we turned it up to something not super loud, just like 70 dB-ish, 72. And it was nice and loud in the room. Suddenly we could hear the bass. We could deal with it. He was just listening at too low of a volume. So yeah, volume matters. Too much volume is bad, but too little volume can also be bad. Is this audio to MIDI a massive improvement over 7? It's only massive in that, A, you couldn't do it in 7 without using Melodyne. So they had that extra step. And then, depending on the version of Melodyne, I think you could only do monophonic stuff. And so this will take, I did a demo at NAMM, I can play a whole chord and it will pull out the entire chord. So it's polyphonic, which is pretty cool. Does it work amazingly on every source? No. But it'll probably get better. Do you add stereo widening on your instrument bus followed by additional widening on the whole mix? Nope, I don't use stereo widening almost ever. The way to make a mix sound wide is pan things hard left and right, and then make sure there's not phase issues, and then make sure you know how to mix and get the frequencies right, so it's not too muddy on the sides and things like that. But I've personally never needed widening, almost ever. If you had to compare the new guitar VST plugin from Fender, Studio Pro to others in the market like Overloud, Universal, would you say it's in the same range? No idea. The thing about me is I don't compare because I feel like it's a waste of time. I just play with it, and if I like it, I like it, and that's kind of the end of the story. So my first amp modeler I got was the Avid 11 rack. I listened to it, and I said, does that sound exactly like a Marshall Plexi? I don't know, because I don't own a Marshall Plexi. I've honestly never played a Marshall Plexi, but it sounds cool, and I like it, and I'm inspired, and I want to make music. That's all I need. So the thing that's you got to be careful of, I'm not saying you're saying this Padilla mixing, but there's this sense that we can have of if there's something better out there, then what I have is inferior, and that's not true, right? I love my Gibson J45. Is there a better acoustic out there? You could maybe argue no. But even if there was, like this, Fender sent me this back when they took over Presonus. It's like an $800 acoustic. It's beautiful. It sounds really good. It also is like super cracked right here. But I shouldn't have showed you that. Is there a better guitar than that? You betcha. Could I make great music with that? You betcha. That's where I land on it. Just because there's something better doesn't mean the thing I have is inferior. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I think that's kind of the underlying belief is I must have the best. What I will say is the Mustang reminds me a lot of the Tone Master, which I do have. It's not exactly the same. It doesn't have quite as much tweakability. It doesn't have all the effects, but it was in the ballpark, and I liked it. And I was worried I wasn't going to like it, to be honest. Do you think there's a place for a new platform for artists by artists, one that prioritizes artist payout? Okay. It's a really interesting question. The thing is, a payout of what? Who is paying into this that it's coming out? Because generally speaking, I'm willing to pay about $20 a month for music because I pay for Apple Music and I listen to music that way. So $20 a month isn't a lot of money, right? Times millions and millions of people, yeah, that's a big chunk of money, but there's also millions and millions of artists. So I think if you're saying you want to prioritize paying out for people listening to music, I think that ship has sailed. I don't think the average person is going to pay more than $10, $20 a month to listen to all the music they want to listen to. You can argue that that's wrong, that people should want to. Okay, fine, but that's the nature of the world right now. It's not an ends justify the means situation exactly, but no one forced any of us to put our music on Spotify and Apple Music. That's just where people were listening, so we put our music there. And so to say I'm going to create, imagine this. I create a platform where you can listen to Joe Gilder's music, and you can pay Joe Gilder and listen to Joe Gilder's music. Would some people do that? Maybe. But what if I was charging $20 a month just to listen to Joe Gilder's music? And you could say, well, okay, so you're saying, or let's say I charge $10 a month, and you're saying, okay, I have a choice between $10 a month to listen to Joe's music or $20 a month to listen to anyone that's ever released music in the history of music. Like at some point I'm saying my music by itself is more valuable than Foo Fighters or major label released stuff. And it's just not true. You know what I mean? We can argue the morality of it, I guess. To me, I'm a big the market's pretty important. So unless you and I are out there buying records from people all the time, which I imagine most of us aren't, I don't know if the conversation is almost moot because what are we paying out from? Where's the money coming from? Where I think there's opportunity is right now you're experiencing it. I make my living from music. You want to know how? Not from selling it on Apple Music and Spotify, although I'm there. I make music by doing what I'm doing right now. I make money by doing what I'm doing right now and coaching people and helping people. I understand people say, well, that's not how I want to make music. The greatest composers that you could name, almost all of them made money doing things like giving piano lessons to rich people's kids, teaching in universities, doing music for churches on Sundays. It was the place where it was valued. You know what I mean? They weren't selling gobs and gobs of books of sheet music, right? They were working for the man, however that looked. So I don't feel like musicians of today have to be all that different, but we have the opportunity where I can sit here and I'm talking to people from all over the planet about music. I'm making myself helpful to them. I'm giving of myself for free to them so that a portion of them might take a step further and buy my plugin or become a VIP member or come to my challenge or pay me thousands of dollars to coach them more closely. And some people do, and that's how I make my living. So I understand. I like the entrepreneurialness behind your question, but I think if the answer is people are going to pay to listen to music, I don't know if that's not a very valuable proposition for the market. If it's something else, if you can provide some sort of experience, some sort of like thing they can't get anywhere else, now we're talking. Now that's interesting. But if it's just I'm going to listen over here instead of over here, and I'm just going to do it because they're going to make more money, as a user, I probably don't care that much. And ultimately, you got to give the person something they value. We've had free music for a long time, right? You could listen to the radio. I know you couldn't say what was going to get played, but you could listen to. So there were other ways you had to monetize music. Record sales was a thing for a while. Now it's not really a thing. But there's still plenty of ways. Anyway, we could talk for a whole 5 days about that if we wanted to. How do you layer drum VSTs without canceling each other out? I don't. I know there's ways to do it. I record real drums and I don't layer anything over it, and it works great. I imagine you just have to choose samples that don't cancel each other out, or mess around with the phase of each of them. But personally, I don't use drum samples, and if I do, I use one. I don't layer them. Maybe I'm missing out. I just haven't done that. I've been recording a Rode. What I will say is I still would apply Get It Right at the source to anything. So if I have two drum samples that don't sound good together, I'm going to move on from those two drum samples. I'm going to replace one with another one that does sound good, and get it right at the source before I start throwing plugins and things like that on it. That would be my answer. Been recording with a Rode NT1 for a year, but my room is not treated, and the resonance around 5 to 750 drive me crazy. I was thinking about a Shure SM7. Do you think it'll help? No, because the problem isn't the mic, it's the room. Put up some padding, put up some blankets. Get a blanket, get a couple of mic stands and a couple of thick blankets and sing inside of that. You might get some better sounding recording. Now, yes, the SM7 won't pick up as much high frequencies as the Rode, and so it may ignore the room a little bit more, so you may end up being happier with the sound. But if Get It Right, the source is the name of the game, then if your room sounds like garbage, then every mic is going to capture that garbage because that's the mic's job, is to capture what you put it in. So there you go. The dot song file isn't readable. Well, shoot. I know some of their files are, because I thought it was fascinating that they were readable like that. Thank you very much, Joe, for teaching us. My efficiency in music production has gone up tremendously. Love that. Doing February's. Cool. Dean, you're coming back for February's. I love it, man. And I'm sorry to hear about your mom. I hope that she is doing better. I know that can weigh very heavily. Sorry what y'all are going through with the ice. You know what? Thankfully, yes, like Nashville is crushed right now. My neighborhood actually never lost power. Thank the Lord. Or internet. Like we just were good, but the roads were terrible. And like a lot of trees fell. That's what ice. The thing about ice is not the driving, it's that it weighs down all the limbs. And we got lots of trees around here, and they fall and pull down the power lines and cover the road. So there's parts of Nashville they're saying it's gonna be a couple of weeks before they get power, which is crazy. And yeah, there's another system coming through, I think, which is wild. Is there any way to see the lyrics to Irrelevant? I can't make some of them out on the single. I can just tell them to you. Let me see if I can find them. Let's have a look-see. I thought I put them in the thing when it goes on to Apple Music, but I'm sure I forgot. First, hang on, let's check. Let's check this real quick. Joe Gilder releases. Dadgummit, no lyrics available. I really thought I put them there. Are they there on this one? Well, dang it. Okay, let me, here, I'm going to put them on the screen. You want to screenshot them? These, if I zoom it down a little bit, there you go. I don't know how well you can see that. I see them, I scratch my eyes, lies created, hypnotize, mesmerize, gaslight, and slap me in my face like we can't see truth in its place. Want to let out from the inside, don't want to step back from the edge. Our rage won't subside. Are we irrelevant? What you say and what you mean are so far from where you lean and what I've seen. Whitewashed tomb and clanging gong. You're not right and they're not wrong. They're not wrong. Want to let out from the inside, don't want to step back from the edge. Our rage won't subside. Are we irrelevant? Oh, and then just repeats that again. There you go. There you go. I might play that for you later if I need to take a quick bathroom break. We'll see. We'll see how the old bladder holds out. Tim Forrester. Hey, my friend. Joe, when you do the producing challenge this month, can you add instruments? I've not done one before. Yes, good question. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. Yeah, so inside VIP, we're doing a production challenge where I give you a guitar and a vocal, and your job is to produce it. So yeah, your job is to actually record the things you would add to the song. So absolutely, that's the intent. If I was doing it, I might do it because it's too fun, but I would probably replace his guitar with mine, and I might change the chord progression a little bit too. And I might even change the melody in a couple of spots. Those are things I'm thinking about. By the way, if you want to join VIP, email me. I can give you a coupon code, get a discount on a membership. Just because you came to this live stream. Just put VIP in the subject line, joe@homestudiocorner.com. Email me. If you want to find out what VIP is about, there's a link in the description below. Yep, another snowstorm. Which of your songs demonstrate your best guitar work? Hey, Dr. McFarlane. Tim, my best guitar work. The thing is, I'm a good guitar player. I'm not a great guitar player. I think the guitar solo in Go is pretty dope. Like that. I think as far as acoustic guitar, this whole EP, the Rain one, probably my favorite acoustic guitar tone. It's all my J45 with a pair of Earthworks in XY and a bunch of different guitars. And then I like the guitars on this one. It's just doubled acoustic and electric playing the same thing. Two of each, pan hard left and right, just rocking out.
1, 2, 3.
I mean, it's just rocking out power chords, but I don't know. Those are probably it. There's some fun stuff. See, this is why I talk about this. I talk about this idea of building a body of work. And so this is a playlist I keep called Joe Gilder Releases, and it's just everything I've released. And so it's in chronological order. So as I scroll through this, I'm like, oh, I remember when I was the guy who could make that song. I remember how I botched the guitars on this album. This one, I really loved my acoustic guitar tone on this one.
The sands of time are sinking.
I know what house I was in, what room I was in, what guitar that was, how great I felt after I recorded it. This one I did with Tim and Joel, and I wrote these songs as a part of a 50-song challenge, and then these cool songs came out, including this one about a turtle, and this is an EP I did where this song features a friend that I met through a ministry. Anyway, it's just a story, like a little caption of my life that I get to always have forever. So if you don't have that, if you haven't built a body of work, first of all, no shame, but make that be a priority. Put the first building block in place for your body of work, because it is a glorious thing to have to sift through. It makes me happy. Where were we? I lost my place again. Hello from Canada. Was having problems. Hey Les, having problems rendering out the master mix file. No bus automation was getting written to the file. Update now it works. Yeah. They pretty common that there's bugs out of the gate that we didn't catch, but they're pretty good about doing a quick update once they see those and fix those. It's weird. You write, I don't do software development, but you do one thing like make this button do this, and then somehow that breaks another feature. So you have to, and you may not know that it did. You didn't think to go check every single other thing. So it's sometimes we need users to say, hey, this broke. And you say, oh, sorry, we'll fix that. And they fix it. So thank you for letting them know. I'm glad that it's fixed. I did hear about that automation thing not working, which is frustrating. Sorry. Mike Obaugh. Hey, buddy. You can also add an EQ to your listening bus that brings up the frequencies where you have a deficit. Yes. So the listen bus in Studio Pro is like a separate bus. I don't use it, but there it is. A separate bus where you listen. So you could put a plug-in on here that affects what you hear, but doesn't affect what goes on the mix. So if you have a deficit, you could maybe cheat it up a little bit. What I heard from one, I did one of these live streams, and there was a doctor, an audiologist on there, and he said, if you're going to do that, if you're missing 6 dB above 10K, he would say only add like 3 dB. So whatever it is, like do it by half, because if you go full 6 dB, it's too much. So there's our medical advice for the day. Hey, Stian. Brother, your email made my day the other day. Thank you for that. If I delete an older version of a song in Studio One, will it affect the new versions of that song? Missing files. I mean, if you delete the whole folder, probably, because if the newer versions are all inside that main folder. Bigger picture, I would say the song file is literally like, here's one we mixed for VIP. Like the song file is 97 kilobytes. It's literally not big. Where all the file size comes is from like your media folder and things like that. So my question would be, why even risk deleting it? Just leave it. Just leave it alone. That's what I would do. All right, I've lost my place again. eCast, the producer. I'm still on Studio 1.7, but got some projects pending. Should I still cross over or wait a little bit longer? I mean, if there are features in the new version that you think I gotta have those, then upgrade. If you don't, I say stay where you are. There are Nashville guys still on like Pro Tools 6 because it works, and they don't have any reason to upgrade. I know I have to upgrade because they asked me to do videos about it, so of course. But if I wasn't doing videos, I'd probably be a version or two behind until a feature came along that I really needed and wanted. They probably don't like that I told you that. Which instruments do you throw a compressor on and set it so there's always gain reduction versus just the peaks? Good question. A little bit of a feel thing. Yeah, you just have to do it on a bunch of stuff and kind of see what you like. I know that's not a good answer. That's why this one's kind of an always-on compressor that's always compressing a little bit, but it never gets too aggressive. It's not what you would use for like peaks, but it just kind of smooths things out. I sometimes like both. So if I have a vocal that's like rocking, I've got a compressor that's pretty aggressive on like the loud parts, and I still feel like it could, and I've EQ'd and everything else. A lot of times I'll put a second compressor at the end of the chain that just does that overall smoothing, so it just clamps it down just a smidge. I dig that a lot. Ivan is my guy. Yeah, he is. Oops, sorry, you already said that. Hey, do every kick need to be attenuated at 200 hertz approximately when mixing? No, but I get what you're saying. Sometimes like 150. Sometimes there's too much of like, if the 50 hertz is like the resonance, there's an octave up, that comes through too much. And so a lot of times you have to pull that down. Same with bass. Same idea, but a little bit lower. So yeah, maybe. And on drums in general, like acoustic drums, I like a big old wide cut across the whole kit at like 400 hertz because there's just a lot of like boxy mid-range that doesn't need to be there. Do you have an instructional piece on a simplified way of bringing in outboard hardware into a patch point in a DAW? I mean, if you're using Studio One or Studio Pro, it was called Pipeline. It's called external effect. It does it the best I've seen. You literally just say, here's my input, here's my output, and now the plug-in is that piece of hardware. That's how I would do it. But I also don't do it. I never use hardware in mixing, so. The plugins just do it very well. It's hard for me to justify the outboard piece once I've recorded. Outboard on the way in, lovely. Outboard while I'm in this box, going back out and back in, it's just, to me, it's too much work. I've done it. I've set it up and done it. It's like, oh, that's neat, but I wouldn't do it in real life. I think that's why you see a lot of these pro mixers who are big analog board guys going in the box selling their console, because the recall of it all is just there's a benefit there, and the sonic benefit isn't as different, especially with the way plugins are now. I have Studio One Pro Plus right now. Do I have to download Fender software to continue my... No one. The thing is, no one can make you do anything, and I imagine Studio One 7 is going to work for a nice long time. So no, you don't have to. At some point, you probably will, but I imagine that's a few years in the future. So you have plenty of time to hold off. Can you do a live stream of you doing a live band recording? Yep, I need to. The problem with that is my brain is in so many places on those days. I got Tim over there on his kit. We're loading his kit in. We're setting up mics. Joel's over here on his bass rig. We're getting him set up. Granted, that's easier because it's just one cable coming from his amp head. I've got my rig set up. I got to get headphones in all places, headphone mixes set up. Got to set the level. And I got to play guitar and not sing, but play guitar and engineer. And then live. I'm just complaining. I just haven't done it yet. Because I would... Honestly, I would be worried that I would be more concerned about the live stream and would mess the recording up, which would be a shame. But yes, some sort of fly on the wall, even if it's just this like wide angle lens, like off in the corner, and we don't talk to you much. That I could possibly do. We'll see. Especially if you're doing a single versus like a full EP, that might be a little less stressful. Okay, here's what I want to do. I need to. Why don't y'all pick a song? I'm going to play a song for you. I need to run to the restroom. I'll be right back. I'm going to play Irrelevant because somebody was asking about that before. So I'm going to play that for you. I'll be right back, and we will continue down the Q&A rabbit hole. See you in a minute. All right, we're back. Thank you for obliging me. A bathroom break. Let me just double check. Like, are we still live? We're still going. 94 of y'all here. Lovely. All right. Cool. All right. You need to diversify. Rich, what do you mean? I don't know what you mean. I'm willing to consider the fact that I need to diversify, but you got to tell me what you mean by that. Do you ever do timed reverb and time delay on vocals? Delay, yes. Reverb, no. What features, instruments, effects would you like to see added to Studio Pro? A really good, this makes me sound old, but a really good like B3. They have a good rotor. If they would just give us a good like drawbar B3 with that rotor, I would be so happy. And then like a proper Fender Rhodes model. They don't own Rhodes anymore, but I think they should buy it back and use like make a like an actual. It looks like a freaking like suitcase Rhodes plopped down on there. I think that would be fun. You ever tried a spider capo? I've tried a cut capo that goes on the A, D, and G strings. I don't know what a spider capo is, though. Shadowworks. I know you won't get to this, but it's my response to the new platform question. I built a platform that is in beta that solves all concerns you brought up. It's $10 a month for fans, $1 for artists. Okay. I mean, what are they paying for? I'd still be curious if you want to let me know. If they're paying for just access to music, I just don't see fans paying for that. But maybe there's more to it. And I appreciate the hustle. Joe, new to Studio Pro 8. If I have 2 mics on a guitar going to mono tracks and I record multiple takes to lanes, can I group the tracks and comp the takes? Yep. You just put them. The easiest way is just use a folder. And then if you zoom in enough, click this button on the folder and it groups everything. So now if I'm on here, once that group is on, if I come in here and I say add a layer, it just does it to all of them. Except for these for some reason. I don't know why that didn't work. Anyway, these are in their own group apparently. Assuming let's just turn these off. Get out of this group. Just be in the drums group. Now it should all work. Anyway, that was a weird example. I don't know why those were grouped, but yeah, that's the way to do it. You can also select things, right-click, and choose create group. I never do that. I just do the folder version of that. Good question. I got to see if someone told me what I need to diversify. Oh, I'll never know. I'll never know how I need to diversify. You're probably telling me I need to like make different music, but I don't want to. I love what I do. That's the problem. Somebody interviewed the lead singer of Cake, and they were like, do you realize all your music sounds the same? He's like, yeah, and we love it. And we have success with it. Why would we change? They do have vocal booths made from moving blankets. It does not. All it does is dampen the reverb in the room. It does not total soundproof. Yeah, but nobody needs total soundproof. Like, soundproof is only helpful if you like legit need the music to not go into the next room, which for most of us isn't really what we're talking about. We're talking about we just want it to sound good. Now, soundproofing is a whole other thing. I'm not the guy to talk about soundproofing. You got to like build the room to be soundproof. But for most people I interact with, soundproofing is not really a concern. It's more just the sound treatment. Are you a Quad Cortex user? Nope. Will a template from East West they made for the Fender version work with subscription? I have no idea. Sorry, I don't even know what that is. Have you ever used IK Multimedia products? Yeah, probably. The thing is, you have to remember, I almost use no third-party stuff. Not because I'm against it, I just haven't. I've been happy with what I have. I'm probably going to branch out. I got a bunch of brands wanting to pay me to do stuff, and so part of me is like, it might be fun. I also, check this out. I just got a Red Bull wants to sponsor me. Check that out. Just kidding. It's technically true, but you imagine me on Red Bull? Yoicks. VIP, challenge community, discounts on products. Nah, that's old. Discounts on products was an old thing. That's not there anymore. But there's also not many products to buy from anymore. You like the riff. The startup takes about 5 minutes now. It gets hung up on Fender Support Services tab. What can you do? Sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. The bridge to Fighter. Ba, ba, ba. That part, that was pretty good. Music does help define our lives. The startup page gets hung up when it gets to the Z Fender Support Services and takes about... Okay, gotcha. That's a tech support question. You just need to contact them. I bet they know what's up. Or maybe try uninstall and re-download the installer, maybe. East-West Coast templates in the description version. Yeah, I believe you that it's there. I've not looked at it, so I don't know anything about it. I missed the pre-count indicator in the transport bar. Huh. All right. Can you explain the use of an aux channel versus others? I mean, Pro Tools aux is not the same as Studio One aux. It's pretty similar, though. It's just a bus. I don't think they call them an aux in Studio One, do they? We have bus channels. Oh, we do have an aux channel. So yeah, the aux channel, you can set the input and it will always be on, I believe. So if I do this, check, yeah. It's receiving my vocal mic. Right. So that would be useful if you want to bring an external input into that and have it be live, like, I don't know, like a talkback or something. I'm not sure why. I've literally never used one. Feelings. Anna says, thanks for the songwriting challenge. Struggle to find time. Is it better to do it first thing in the morning or after work in the evenings? I'm best at mornings. I think you just answered your question. If you're best in the mornings, that might be the best time. But you may have more time in the evenings. The thing is, just do it. Like, just schedule it and do it consistently. The time doesn't matter. I can't do it at night because I just fall asleep. Doug. Hey, Doug. Love your videos. They're nice and simple. Love my Gilder Vox. Great plugin. I know you're a plate reverb guy, but why no reverb on the plugin? Still enjoying your pen. Yes, I'm enjoying my pen. I just didn't want any reverb because the reverb is so subjective. I already have the reverbs I like, and I was just going to use those. There's no one reverb. There's one delay that I love on vocals, which is slapback delay, so I included that and overdrive. But reverb was just a whole separate thing. I might maybe do my own reverb plugin one day, but yeah, I just didn't. I decided I didn't want there to be reverb there. Because then it's getting outside of being like simple for me. I probably could have put a plate there, but no, I kind of like where I was. Anna is back, says, I do not stop and don't have time for client work. If I do it after client work, I'm exhausted. Any idea when to carve out time? I mean, it sounds like doing it early in the day makes the most sense. On your lunch break, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, this is just how are you going to make time for something that's important to you? You don't need me to tell you how to do that. Yeah, I think you already probably know the answer. And I recognize, too, like, it's easy for me to say, oh, make some time. Like, I have all the time in the world because of the way my life works out. I get to make music when I want. And I recognize that is a privileged place to be, and I'm very thankful for it. But the reality is your life is what it is, and it won't change unless you change it. So if you want there to be more music there's probably places in your life that you can carve out space. And if that's at night, because that's the only literal place you can make it happen, then just grab a Red Bull and make it happen. Sponsored by Red Bull. Can you take a project from Studio One Pro to Fender Studio and back? No. You can take it from Studio One into Fender Studio, but it cannot go back. That's been true of every version of Studio One. You can't bring a version 6 into 7 and go back to 6. They're not backwards compatible. There's no way to really do that. I got some strange experiences with event effects. Undo doesn't work. Cool. Let support know. They will fix it for sure. Just go to, my.fender.com. Find the support tab. Support.fender.com. They will fix it. On recording days with clients, what kind of food and beverages do you provide? waters, coffee, and then we go to lunch. Probably to get some hot chicken. Probably not hot chicken, but maybe. Sounds like Neil Schoen. I probably should know who that is, shouldn't I? We did record the drums, bass, and the main guitar live, and then added more guitars on top of that. Can you do something for the streamers that use the Fender Remote app? Is there a way to get IP address off? No idea. I have no idea what that even means. Sorry. Hello, Denmark. Sorry that we're trying to steal Greenland from you. I don't understand it. Is there an easy way to drag audio files in folder tracks? Yeah, you got to bring them into the session first. So it's a two-step process. So if I'm importing audio, do I have any audio I could import? No, wrong thing. Anyway, let's just say I dragged a piece of audio. This is a piece of audio I dragged in. You got to drag it into the bottom and it creates a track, then drag that track into a folder. So it's an extra step. But what I do when I start a mix, I drag all the tracks into this bottom area, not in a folder, and then I put them in the appropriate folder. And then they're routed and they're color-coded and life is good. Hello, Greece. Is Persona's Bluetooth version 2 still a good mic pre? I have a Scarlett Audio. Is it better? I mean, do you have both? If so, listen to them and decide for yourself. Good is pretty relative. Most things can be good. I mean, yeah, if you have them both. I wouldn't imagine the Bluetooth is much better than the built-in on the Scarlett, because as I recall, the Bluetooth was pretty cheap too. But like the answer of like, is it good, is something that I can't answer. Does it sound good to you? I know that sounds so relativistic, but it's true. If you like it, wonderful. Greetings from Zimbabwe. Hello, Zimbabwe. Good evening. I just got the notice that you're going live. Do notifications always go out late? I don't know. I mean, I sent an email, but it takes, when it goes out to like 60,000 people, it takes a minute for them to get out. So if you subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell, I think it'll pop up and notify you when I go live. That's a little benefit of actually doing the bell thing. Stian hanging out late at night in Norway. I love it. Would you keep a slice loop in a song as is, or do you think it should be used for ideas? You mean splice? I think you can leave it in as far as like royalties go. I think you can use it royalty free. If I'm wrong, then no. But hey, Joe, I started making music last year. You've been an amazing help. I also use your Vox plugin. Can you explain how to EQ without guesswork, or point me to a video? You already have one. This is gonna sound repetitive, but if you just come to my mixing challenge in 2 weeks, I'll teach you how to do all that. It's paid, but when you pay for it, you tend to pay better attention, and I'll give you some homework that'll help you do that. But generally speaking, like I said earlier in this call, you got to learn your frequencies, learn what each frequency sounds like, and really be intimately familiar with what 500 hertz sounds like, what 200, 100, 2.5K, like they all have very specific sounds. Once you know what those sound like and what they sound like on different instruments, you can start to recognize where the problems are and how to fix them. Joshua using Studio One version 2. That's where I started too, man. Way back in the it was so ugly days. Harold, in your experience, can you say that when using EQ on a mix, you're cutting more than adding? Yes. And if so, when doing this, do you compensate the volume after the process? I sometimes compensate if it needs it. If I do a lot of cutting and it feels like it's quieter than it was before, then I might boost a little bit with the EQ. But yeah, my philosophy on EQ is more of a subtractive approach. I tend to think, and it's not that mine is the only way or the right way. It works really well for me and my clients, if that makes sense. Because if Ben Holmes is here, get out of town. I'm late seeing you here, Ben. Hey, buddy. To me, EQ is subtractive. There's already so many things happening in the sound, so I'm going to remove the problems and let the rest emerge. There are people who think the opposite, and that can also work. It's just, in my mind, that makes a lot of sense. So that's what I do. So yeah, I'm probably cutting 80% of the time, boosting 20 maybe. Have you ever thought about, or have you already upgraded to the Studio Live SE? No, I'm not going to upgrade anytime soon. This one works. If it dies, I'll upgrade, but until then, I'm good. Do you know if they're adding a way to have the cells in the launcher be a fixed number? I don't know that, sorry. Ben Holmes, my man. Ben and I go way back. Way back to, speaking of our body of work and music, if I scroll up to around here, a song called Homemade Prison, Ben Holmes played drums on it. Anyway, see, this is why you need a body of work, so I can be like, I always know I made that song with Ben and also Neil from the podcast Sound Discussion. Sorry, Nate. There wasn't really room for fiddle on that one. Have you ever tracked yourself when you were tired or not feeling well? For me, I can always hear it, and it's never great. Yep. If it's vocals, I'd just skip it. I don't do it because it really comes through. For any other instrument, I can make it work. But yeah, and just worst case is you got to come back and do it again. You got to delete it and start again. But you may capture magic. Maybe you on your third chug of NyQuil sounds amazing. Maybe. I'm not promoting NyQuil. I'm not going to be sponsored by NyQuil, I'm pretty sure. Have you tried the Fender Studio Pro remote app? No, I haven't. I like the idea. I just haven't used it because I'm always sitting right here. I don't ever need it. Have you had an opportunity to test the new controllers? Yes. I got to play with them at NAMM. They're cool. Specifically the Motion 16. It's like the upgraded Atom. It had this chord mode. It was just cool. Wait, when you see a demo, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're pretty cool. I use a Rode NT1A for 10 years. Is a Neumann 103 an upgrade? Make a big difference in vocal quality. I don't know. Probably an upgrade. The Neumann 103, as I recall, is pretty bright still, and the NT1A is really bright. Yeah, probably. How do you take a song from an external hard drive that was Studio 1.4 into my new computer that has 7? I plugged it in and played it, but the external isn't connected. It says missing files. Well, yeah, you got to have, wherever the files are, that has to be connected. Right? You either need to copy the entire folder on wherever you keep your songs and then open it from that folder, or you have to have the hard drive connected. That's the way it works. It's looking for files to stream the audio from. Joshua says, sometimes I hit a wrong button on my keyboard and this split screen or something opens up and I can't figure it out. How close is it? Oh, dude. Yeah, I used to do that too. It's called, if I'm guessing correctly, you're opening up the scratch pad. Does it look like this? Yeah, I used to do it all the time. Scratch pad is like a place where you can mess around with audio and ideas, and then you can just kind of hide it. And so it's not part of the official songs. It's a place where you can mess with ideas, like an actual scratch pad. And you can have multiple ones with different ideas. It's a cool thing. I've never used it much, but what I did find out is I kept opening it on accident. And it annoyed the crap out of me. So go to your key commands, keyboard shortcuts, search for scratch, and there is a scratch pad key command. I just deleted it. So if it was like, I don't know, M or something, I just went in here, selected it, and hit remove so that it no longer opened up. For years that plagued me. And I finally did that. Now it never opens again. Because I was hitting something like, it was like a number, and it would open up, which is funny. Excuse me. Chris Lord Algae seems to mainly do additive EQ. Yeah, there's no two ways about it. Also, he tends to be getting tracks that have been pretty heavily processed from the people who recorded them too. So they might already sound amazing, and they might just need a little boost to here and there. Versus coming in with problems, which we tend to have more in home studios, just as a rule. But also, if you think about boosting highs, cutting lows, it's the net result is kind of the same. The overall volume will be different, but if you compensate for that, it's all kind of the same. But the cutting is what works for me. It's kind of like if I'm a 335 humbucker guy, and someone's like, yeah, well, John Mayer plays single coils. Yep, he sure does, and that works for him. That's also true, Ben, that a lot of times when Chris Lord Alge is getting in there, there's a lot of stuff that's already happened. He's coming in at the final stage to kind of put his stamp on it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like some of that tedious work of like, there's a resonance on this. Let me cut that ringing in the snare. Like he's not doing any of that stuff either. William from the frozen mountains of Virginia. I'm in the frozen hills of Tennessee. Used to be able to record from inputs 1 and 2 in my Presonus AR1. All of a sudden, I cannot use these inputs. Not to be difficult, but can you just not use those inputs? I tend to save those inputs for playback from my DAW. So I've never used inputs 1 and 2 for recording, like on any mixer I've used. Are you running out of space and you need them? If so, I don't have an answer for you. Sorry. If it's one of those you've got plenty of open inputs, I would just use those and not worry about it. If you're out of inputs, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. What all effects do you use on the effects buses for your studio live? None. I mean, I've got a reverb and a delay set up. No, I've got some. What do I have? I have the 335 digital reverb set up to like a big old concert hall. I've got the digital XL reverb. No, I don't use that one. And I've got stereo and mono delay, I think just set up as slapback delay. So I could have like basically some reverb and slapback delay on my vocal from the board if I want it. But it's just for vocal recording, and then I never use it otherwise. They're not great. They're not great reverbs. And I think Presonus would tell you that too. That's why you didn't understand what I was talking about. When you open the app, it displays your IP network address in the opening. Oh, I see what you're saying. You don't want it to display your IP address. Gotcha. You can always submit a request to not do that. That's all I know. What is the cause of MIDI changing key or patch in piano roll? I don't know. Sorry. I don't know a lot about MIDI. I don't use it very much. That scratch pack shortcut was the letter V. The letter V. Thank you, Mr. Watt. Yeah. I think whenever I would like go to like paste and command V, and sometimes my finger would push the V. Apparently I'm hitting V all the time and it would open up that thing. So that's now gone. Thank you. Yeah, that was I probably spent years doing that and not knowing what I had done or how to turn it back off, because V would turn it back off again. I just didn't know what I had hit. I love that. Paid for the full version of Studio One Pro a few years back. I would like this new version. Do I have to buy a new or do the monthly plan? Yeah, so the way software works in general, like since Studio One version 1, is you buy a version and you own it, and then if you want a new version, you pay for the new version. So yeah, you'll either pay, there's an upgrade probably, I think it's like $99 to upgrade to Fender Studio Pro, or you could do the subscription. Both are available. So a lot of people don't like subscription, and so that's why there's the option to not do that. To the one guy with the IP question, can you block it out on OBS? Oh, that's clever. Put like just a little filter layer thing on it. That's probably a good solution that would work today. So what was the problem? You're streaming your iPad, and when you go to that menu, it shows your network address. And I'm guessing that's bad for security, if I had to guess. I'm not very smart about IP address things. Mike, for live performance, have you ever used Logic? I've done some tests at home. I like that I don't need Wi-Fi and can use a simple vocal chain live. Yeah, I used MainStage, which is Logic's like live performance thing. I used that as my keyboard rig here in the studio for a long time. So I would have a separate laptop with a separate interface and a keyboard plugged into it, and I would just find keyboard sounds and play them and then record them onto this computer with audio, like an actual keyboard. I loved that workflow. It was dumb because it was two computers, but yeah, the sounds in Logic and the stability of that MainStage, a lot of like pro keyboard folks use that live, and it seems Seems really like in depth, like all the things it can do, layering sounds and having like channel strips for vocals and things like that. It's pretty solid. Yeah. I think a lot. It's been around forever, right? It's been around for at least 15, 20 years. So like that's main stage thing. So it's a pretty mature product. If you go to keyboard shortcuts and search for scratch in the, yeah, that's it. Copy loop range to scratchpad. Oh, yeah. I would just go through anything related to scratchpad that has a keyboard shortcut. Delete that junk. Unless you love it, that's fine. Do you like Studio Pro over Pro Tools? Yes, I switched from Pro Tools to Studio One back in like 2013 or something, 2012, 2011, something like that. I was a Pro Tools guy through and through. I started to use Studio One because I was working for a manufacturer rep firm that represented PreSonus, so I had to learn Studio One just to sell it to music stores. And then I started working in it so I could learn how to teach how to use it, and I fell in love with it and never looked back. Aw. Have you ever done a studio tour? Yeah, I did one fairly recently. Just go look it up on the channel. I've done a bunch over the years because I've moved a bunch over the years, but like the core gear has kind of stayed the same. It's nothing super fancy, honestly. Just get it done. Have you changed any of your keyboard shortcuts versus the ones you use in Studio One? No, I haven't. I haven't looked, but I assume they're all staying the same. Every time there's new features, they add new keyboard shortcuts, which is one of the things I love about Studio One, Studio Pro, is like they're all right. If you don't know what a keyboard shortcut is, you can go find it. You could literally spend a month doing your own custom keyboard shortcut for everything, and it tells you when there's a conflict, which is cool. Like here's one I love. I set a keyboard shortcut for Option K that opens up the keyboard shortcut window. So I can do that. Like, it's super nerdy, so that's why my keyboard mapping scheme is modified, because I've modified this a bunch. And, yeah, which I think is just funny. You can go too far and waste a lot of time and never make music doing that, but it's also kind of fun. Mike, is there a way to prevent the display from zoom when you use a scroll wheel on your mouse while the pointer is on the bar ruler? That's so annoying. I don't think so. Oh, this right here? No, I don't think so. Yeah, there's a couple of annoying things like that. I doubt that's anything you can turn off. Later, Ben. In my mix screen template, my buses are to the left of the tracks, which is what I like. I tried adding a new bus in the song, and it went all the way to the right. How do I fix this? Can I move it? It depends on how you have things set up. But yeah, if you turn off, there's a setting. If you go to your mixer, hit the little wrench on the left-hand side, and then just deselect this. Keep bus channels to the right. If you have that selected, any new bus you create is going to go to the right, except for the folders, because they're technically folders and buses like this. Then you could put that bus wherever you want. Please, Joe Gilder, you are not responding to my question. All right, well, ask it again. I haven't seen it. Oh, please, what is the cause of MIDI changing? I said I don't know. Sorry. I answered. I said I don't know. What is the cause of a MIDI changing key, or I'm guessing peach means patch, in piano roll after playing... Sorry. After playing a melody or a chord on the piano roll, it will change the key or pitch of what I played on Mac. Please, sir. Yeah, I still don't know. So you'll have to talk to support or someone who knows. I do not. Sorry. I wish I did. What was one thing that made you choose Studio One over Pro Tools? Honestly, there were little things like, if I want to like here are my, let me close some of this stuff out. So here are these blue tracks over here are my drums. Yeah. This may have changed, but at the time, a decade ago, if I have these drums routed to this drum bus, and usually the bus would be on the right-hand side the way I had it in Pro Tools. If I wanted to solo my drums, if I went like this and pressed solo on the bus, it wouldn't do anything. So I would have to go and, okay, the group is on. I would either have to group the tracks so that they would turn on, or if there was no group, I would have to do this number where I go boop, 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 boop. That is incredibly annoying. There's no reason that's how it should work. It should be when I press solo on the drum bus, it should solo everything feeding the drum bus. That's what Studio One did. And if I had a reverb send, it would turn on the reverb. I wouldn't have to set it up in a certain way to do that. It would just do it. It was just smart. And if I wanted to do something like select these 3 tracks and solo them, guess what? I just select them and solo them, and it solos them. I can use a key command, S or M to mute. That was super interesting. And then the from an editing standpoint, because I was all about editing in Pro Tools, if I wanted to do like drum pocketing, let's say I group my drums and I want to take all, this isn't a good example in this song, but let's just assume that, let's say this needs to move back in time. The snare drum came in early. In Pro Tools, the way I would have to edit that is I would separate it here, slide this over, or maybe separate it here, slide this over, drag this back, crossfade, and then I could move on. The way it works in Studio Pro or Studio One is I can still separate it like I would before, but then I hold down Command and Option, and I can do this. The ends don't move. I can just move the underlying audio, and when it's in the right spot, I press X, and it crossfades both sides. I press C instead of X. Crossfades both sides, and I can move on. Saved me a million bajillion hours of my life because I do a lot of editing like that. That's for the people I show that matters to, that blows their mind. For most people, they're like, oh, whatever. But for me, it was a big, big, big deal. So engine music, sorry I couldn't help you, but thanks for being here. Hi, Joe. In a Rick Beato video, engineer Dave Natal recommends to cut out the following frequencies within a live mix: 160, 315, 632, 2K. All right. Give Peace a chance, 140. I definitely want to give Peace a chance, but the way you wrote the question makes no sense to me. Why would I just cut these frequencies for no reason? I'm sure you had a reason. And talking about live sound too, like if it's live sound, I'm not the guy to ask. My guess is those are frequencies that cause problems. There's a lot of harshness that he's talking about between 2 and 4K. That's a lot of different frequencies. There's some grossness at 160 usually. 315 can be boxy. 600 is kind of that mid-range. Ooh, kind of in there. No, I tend to cut things because I have a reason, not because someone told me I should. So there you go. Colin Schlegel, what is going on? Good to see you, man. All right, so I think I've caught up on my scrolly scroll. So if you can't talk no more. If you asked a question and I missed it, please re-ask it now. I want to make sure I get that, and then I might call it a day. We've been going for 2 hours as of 30 seconds from now. But if you've been on the sidelines and you're like, oh, I have a question, I should ask it. Go ahead. Come on. I won't bite. I have never bitten anyone on a Q&A. I did used to bite my sister as a kid, and my mom's response was, bite him back. Great parenting. Keith, good to see you, my man. Just want to say you're awesome, Joe. I've had a ton of great vocal mixing advice. Thanks, Niles. It's good to hear. Anna says, my mind is blown. The soloing is still a problem in Pro Tools. How long did it take you to learn Studio One? Okay, Anna, I'm not going to try to sell you on switching because switching is hard because you've got all this muscle memory. It didn't take me that long because of one thing I'll show you that'll just make life a little bit easier. If you decide to switch, come down, open up the preferences, and come down here and change this one. If you use a lot of keyboard shortcuts, change this to Pro Tools. It'll change all the keyboard shortcuts in Studio One to be closer to what it is in Pro Tools. So a lot of the common functionality you're used to. I did that for a minute, and then I decided to just learn it the way they designed it, because I think they designed it in a smart way. So I eventually went away from it. But it's real easy to say, okay, how do I... I can't remember how to start recording. Hang on. And you just search for the word record, and it'll show you every single possible keyboard shortcut with the word record in it. And I can say, oh, right, that's what it is. Cool. Thanks. And for example, record defaults to the number pad star, which I think personally is dumb because I don't have a number pad on my keyboard or if I'm on a laptop. So I came in and I added this. I make record the backslash just above the return key so I can have multiple key commands for the same thing. See that? I added this one. That's something I added. This is what it was by default. As far as I know, you can't do anything like that in Pro Tools, which makes this so much user-friendly, especially if you want to customize and make it kind of do what you want to do. Yeah. The cool thing is you don't have to learn all of Studio One. Just learn how to do the things you need to do. There's plenty. I'm considered a Studio One expert. There's plenty I don't know how to do. You just need to know enough to make great music. You can figure out the rest as you go. Also, it's called Fender Studio now. The Fender Studio YouTube channel has 5 years of content from both myself and a guy named Gregor. I do a lot of stuff geared towards like singer-songwriter, recording, mixing, mastering. Gregor does a lot of stuff towards MIDI stuff, MIDI production, electronic music. So between the two of us, we've got a lot of hours and hours of content that'll get you up and running. For sure. Mockingbird Productions just retired, so now I have time to join you. Much appreciated. Hey, Dean. Well, I'm glad to hear happy retirement to you. 2.5 Clay is close to that darn old devil frequency. You're not wrong, Mike. It strikes regularly. This clicking behavior is driving me crazy. I'm on Studio One version 5 Pro. Do you know if I subscribe, do I automatically get the latest version? Yep. Yeah. As soon as you subscribe, you're in for whatever is the latest thing. And as long as you subscribe, you have the latest thing. You can also buy it outright for whatever the price is. There's benefits to subscribing, like you get access to all the library of stuff too. But some people are allergic to subscriptions, so there's that. What's the quickest way to strip silence from a vocal? Seems like when I get into it, it takes forever. Gregor, hang on, let's see. Let's just see. Here's a vocal. If I just go open up this. Nope, open this. Open this. I mean, this is the window that does the strip silence. And I just tell it to give me a little bit of a fade in of 0.001 second. I mean, if I just leave it like this and hit apply, it did that. That looks pretty accurate to me. And that's with not changing any of the settings. There's a little silence, lots of silence, noise floor, manual, but like that did it pretty good. Bigger picture, do you need to do the strip silence? This is one of those things I love about what I get to do and like being at like the NAMM show and talking to people is people say, show me how to do this thing, please. And I'll say, sure, I'll show you how to do that. But do you need to know how to do that? And so my question to you would be, do you need to strip the silence? The answer could be yes. It could be that you're hearing all that stuff in your mix. But for most people I found, except for like mouth noise that may come through the mix, I'll get rid of that specific mouth noise. But that doesn't mean I need to strip silence on the whole thing just because I might hear something. So if you can just let go of that like need to strip silence from like an obsessive standpoint, you can just not and see how far you can get with it. I've like literally spent my whole music career seeing what I could just get away with not doing. And it works out pretty well. Anyway, I understand that sometimes stripping silence is helpful, but I've had lots of situations where it's like, oh, turns out that thing I was told I had to do, I didn't have to do it. It's very freeing. I teach music production at Xavier University. I send all my students to your channel as continuing education. I preach you, Mr. Watt. Right there. Come on. Bring it in. Come on. I want you to tell me in the chat that you reached your fist up and fist bumped me. Thank you. Let's do something. Can I come on one of your classes and like hang out and let me know. Love to help. Reach out. If you email me, joe@homestudiocorner.com or go to homestudiocorner.com, the contact page. Reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Mr. Watt. What a great name. His class is electrifying. Twill 4X, I can see you for sure. I see you very much. The auto version of it always cuts a bunch of stuff. Oh, okay. Yes, because it's a noisy room. I hear you. I wonder if you could find a way to do it much faster. Because like it's a noisy room, but I'm just gonna push one more time. Is the noise coming through in the mix? If the answer is yes, of course, then of course you got to do it, or deal with the noisy room. I get it. It's hard, but it depends on the song too. Like a song like this, where once the song kicks in, I don't need the Mr. Watt just fist bumped me in the chat. Like a song like this, at the very beginning, I'm stripping the noise out of her vocal just so all I get is just her breathing to come in for the first note, because it's a very quiet section of the song. But even like we get to this space right here after this note, I don't think there's enough noise there that I'm going to need to like get rid of it. There's not a lot of noise there. It's a pretty quiet room, so I get like maybe I'm proving your point. Could also mean you're doing too much compression. If you're over compressing, you're going to make the noise even louder, and maybe the compression didn't need to be there. Sorry, I'm trying to solve all kinds of problems that you didn't ask me to solve. That's what I do. I can't help myself. But I would love for you to have a world where you don't have to do strip silence anymore. Right? Wouldn't that be great? You're too anal retentive. That's it. I hear you. I will say Gregor created a macro that he showed at NAMM that did the strip silence, and I think it used a combination of tab to transient or something, and it was pretty cool. So if you reach out to him, he might share it with you on like maybe Instagram or something. Tell him Joe sent you, and tell him, give me that macro. How do you know when your ears are tired to the point where you're not making the right decisions anymore? Usually when I feel frustrated. If I feel frustrated, that's a big red flag. I say, okay, step away from the mix. So if like I've tried a bunch of plugins and then like a vocal mix, and I tried a bunch of plugins and then it's not sounding great, and I bypass the plugins and it sounds better without plugins, I'm like, ugh. If I get too frustrated, I'll just take a step back. It doesn't mean I have to leave it for the day. Sometimes it's just like go eat a snack, go eat lunch, go make a cup of tea, just something to come back. But yeah, ear fatigue is like real, like measurable. Our ears literally change. Like think about the way, like when you leave a concert and your ears are ringing, like in a lighter way, that happens when we sit and listen real intently for a long time. So it makes sense to work in some breaks into your workflow. Faux ho. Whew, that just got cold. Good question though. Instead of strip silence, try a gate. Yeah, I hate gates because they inevitably don't work on every section as much as I want them to. But maybe it works for you. You can have a gate that's triggered to certain frequencies. Yeah, it's just hard. I wonder, can you solve the noisy room problem? Just get it right at the source. And then we don't have to worry about this. Like turn the air off or turn off the fan noise on the computer. Put the fan in the other room. All right, Jagadidi Burns. I don't think I said that right. Hey, Joe. I'm new to all this. Nav Studio 1, I2, Scarlett 414, plus an Akai. I used to be part of a funk band called back in the day, not really top-notch musician, just trying a new hobby. Well, cool. And you're in Knoxville. Well, that's lovely. Well, this is it's what a time to be alive, right? If we tried to do this in the 80s, we wouldn't get very far. You get a cassette recorder and that's it. But now we can do like really high quality stuff with a computer and a $100 interface and a $100 mic. Like it's wild. Jason says, when I have a mix, I usually struggle with the spacing, especially when I hear it on headphones. I want to make the spacing as accurate as like commercial music. So the thing, you mean like panning? Is that what you're talking about? Because if you listen to a lot of commercial music, from what I hear at least, they generally pan that junk hard left and right. The stuff that I listen to. So I don't think there's this delicate spacing. They just, if it's left, it goes left, way left. That's a great way to get nice wide mixes. Tracy, is EQ mid-side processing to clean up bass in a mix? Best just on the bass bus or on the master bus for overall low frequency cleanup? Neither. If the bass is wrong in a mix, fix it. Like fix the bass. And it's only probably coming from the bass guitar, obviously, kick drum maybe, reverb could be causing it, guitars could have some low. Like, I don't think mid-side processing is mainly for mastering when I can't get to the tracks anymore. But no, I would, if you have to use mid-side to solve it, my guess is there's a much simpler solution somewhere else in the mix. Like, the bass just has too much 150 hertz. Just go turn that down. Problem solved. Like, that to me, I think is probably the real answer. Now someone else might say, yes, exactly. Use mid-side EQ and it'll solve all your problems. I've not found a situation where I couldn't. For me, mid-side comes into play in mastering when I can't get to the tracks, but not in mixing. Up to this point, who knows? I may change my mind. Wait, what? Did you just say you don't pan hard left and right? That is not what I said. Sorry if I said it wrong. I said it's just if it goes left, go all the way left. And if it goes right, go all the way right. I was just saying I don't think there's a lot of nuance to it if you go listen to a lot of stuff. There's occasionally stuff in between, but for the most part, it's like, here's something over here, here's something over there, and there's stuff in the middle. And it sounds wonderful. Yeah, I'm a big fan of what we call LCR panning, like hard left, hard right, up the middle. Have a nice day. But what happens is people don't realize that's how music is, and they put on headphones, and that sounds too wide. It sounds too much to them. I would just say before you make that determination, go listen to a few songs that are professionally released on those same headphones and pay attention. You'll say, oh yeah. Like I just listened to Joe Carey's band, the guy from Steve Harrison from Stranger Things, Joe, DJO. And I listened on while I was working out with headphones on. Lots of stuff only coming out of left side or right. I'm like 100% left and right. That's what I do. Because that's what I hear, and that's what sounds good to me. If you're scared to do that, go for it. It's just, if you go 75, then your mix will always be 25% less wide than everybody else's. And so that's fine. I tend to like to use all of it, so I just use all of it. And there are some exceptions. Like if there's a tom fill and they feel too wide, I'll bring them in. But for most people, like I literally will see so many people's mixes where they're panning stuff like this. They're going 15 left and 23 right, and then they're complaining that their mixes don't sound very wide. Well, because you can't be wide if you don't pan anything out there. And yes, I would say like orchestral music when it needs to be more placed on a sound stage, that's probably a good exception. But a lot of people also get caught up in, I want to make it sound like the band on stage. No, you don't. You don't want the bass player off to the right. You want kick and bass up the middle, just like always. It's a nice idea, but it doesn't actually work in real life. Sometimes guitar's hard pan can get in the way of overheads and airy frequencies. I hear the words you're saying. I've not experienced that reality because panning doesn't have anything to do with frequencies. I think that's something people say a lot is you can get it, quote unquote, out of the way of these other frequencies. Not really. Those frequencies, if you go to mono is a type of panning, and those frequencies are on top of each other. You got to deal with it with something other than panning, right? So it can't be panning that causes two frequencies to collide. Like that can't actually physically happen. So it has to be something else. Why do my hard pan acoustics sound so thin in mono? Could be because they're so similar parts. If they're almost the exact same tone, you might get cancellation in mono. So you may want to try recording different tone guitars with different pick, different guitar, different voicing, put on a capo, things like that. Sometimes, it's not all the time, but sometimes that can happen. Do what sounds best to you, don't mind the rules. Attaboy. But also mind the rules. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, and when I say things like pan it hard left and right, I'm just saying, because I see a lot of people that don't pan, and so they miss out on the width. So go all the way, and then you can always adjust back. But go experience it for yourself. Get out there on the edge. See what happens. When mastering, usually I like the kick snare to be quite loud, but it takes a lot of headroom to the point where my overall track is not quite loud. Should I clip before limiting? Interesting. I know a lot of people who like clippers versus limiters. I just like the way the limiter interacts with it. Like if kick and snare are real loud in the mix, the limiter has a pleasant way of smacking them down to where they stay up front, but they're a little more controlled. I like the way that sounds. Obviously, it depends on the style of music too. So there are situations where I could say, yeah, that might be the case. It'd be interesting to. I see you, Mr. Watt. Thank you. There's this. You could figure out a way to test it, like test it with and without the clipper, with similar volume at the limiter. It'd be hard to test really, but I'd be curious what you think. But I like the way generally loud kick and snare hit. Like I'll tend to err on the side of kick and snare being a little too loud in mixing because I know mastering is going to come along and smack them back down. What's interesting is full panning allows the listener's brain to place it somewhat. That whole piece too. Like we hear it wide, but we're actually hearing. And then like keyboards are generally like they're stereo, so like it's kind of all over the place depending on how they played the sample and things like that. Overheads are rarely panned hard left and right, normally tucked in. I pan them hard left and right all day, every day. But I also usually record XY, so they're not super wide to begin with. But yeah, I absolutely pan them hard left and right. Hey, Joe, what do you say? What do you say to the notion of keeping it simple when it comes to writing and producing song? I say, hear, 118th Street music. Cheers. I'm right there with you. I think there's a place for complexity. I think generally speaking, we don't need any help overcomplicating things. I think we're naturally pretty good at that. But simplifying is an art. There's a book called Essentialism by Greg McCown. I'm not necessarily a minimalist in terms of like, I only wear the same pants every day or whatever. Although for a long time, all I wore was black t-shirts every day. And I was like, this is kind of nice. I don't have to think about it. But I think it's, in a lot of ways, it's easier to make things complicated. And it takes a lot more, it's a lot more difficult to make things simple. Because if I make things simple, if I only have 7 tracks, now every track is more exposed and they all have to be excellent versus 70 tracks where it's just a bunch of wall of sound and no one track has to be all that great because they're all kind of mushing together. That said, you could go both ways. I've done songs with like 60 plus tracks that just, it makes a big wall of sound and that connects with me too. I think ultimately like the North Star is like, does this connect with me? So I'll keep adding if it keeps connecting. And if that makes me connect with it less, then I'll take away. So some productions huge, some productions real simple. And I'm kind of open to being cool with doing both. Because I don't want to say you never need lots of tracks, because sometimes you might. Or I'll hear something that's incredible and it'll have a bunch of tracks and I'll say, well, that just blows my low track theory out of the water. But yes, I do think for me, even just the way I like to live my life, simplicity makes a whole lot of sense. I'll choose the simpler option 9 times out of 10. Like if I'm cooking a steak, I could go buy the sous vide thing and put it in a bag and soak it in water for 3 hours or I just throw it on the Blackstone and sear the crap out of that sucker until it's up to temperature. You know what I mean? Like that's simpler. And I can eat in like 20 minutes instead of 3 hours. I love me some simplicity, and now I'm hungry. From Chico Cali, any clues on mastering? Yeah, what we just said before, I'd say keep it simple. Use a limiter, and then use a limiter and use the K-system meters to get it to the right volume, but then don't feel that you have to put anything else on it. You very well might need a lot of things, but I've had plenty. Let me show you. Let me show you. My latest, something I can show you that I released? This is the Christmas song that I just released. Wait, this is not. They've changed the way the song and projects look. Projects, no. Here. This is that song we listened to earlier, Irrelevant. I use the Pro L2 set to aggressive and +6. I had the mix tool, which was just adding volume, just getting the level that I want, added 7 dB. I had EQ doing this. Not a ton there. I don't even think there's dynamic EQ. I think it's just regular EQ. And then on this one, I happen to use multiband dynamics, which is a multiband compressor, but I'm only using it for the top end. There was something going on with the top end, like the cymbals and the sibilants, that felt too harsh. So I used that to tame that down. And that's it. But I have plenty of mastering sessions that's just like an EQ and a limiter, and I'm happy. So don't feel like you have to go nuts with it. Part of that comes with confidence of like, this does sound good, and I'm confident that it does sound good. Wes Deloche, what's up, my man? You still rocking? Wes, I may never forgive you. I went to the Guitar Center in Nashville years ago. Wes was one of my early, long ago, like, members, like part of the core, like Home Studio Corner crowd. And I get an email from Wes that says, "Hey, I saw you in Guitar Center Nashville the other day." He doesn't live here. He doesn't live in Nashville. So he was in town, saw me at the Guitar Center, didn't come say hello. And he was like, "I didn't want to bother you. I was probably playing a guitar or something." But I was like, I respect it. But also I would have loved to give you a hug. So maybe we can still figure that out. Brandon Sills. Brandon, did I see you at NAMM? My grandfather's last name was Sills. And I met somebody with the last name Sills, and we talked for a while. Anyway, let's complicate it for the fun. Add 60 layers for just one instrument, then overcompress it, and use it as a synth in sample 1 with a fat chorus. There you go. Perfect. There are plenty of people who overcomplicate the crap out of it, and it sounds amazing. So it can absolutely work. I just like the simpler one. That's what's so fun and frustrating about this. You can go about it any way you want. I like subtractive EQ. You can go boosty EQ. One connects with me more. Steven Sills. But one works better for me. Haven't been to Nashville since. I scared you out of town. Remind me where you live. Are you out? Is it out in like? Are you out in like Virginia? I can't remember. Okay, that was you. You told me to talk to Gregor about a question I had. Snapped a pic and walked like I met another legend today. Wow, another legend who's probably like your cousin, as it turns out. The Sills. Oh, got it. I see what you're saying. Well, good to see you here. Thanks for hanging out. South Carolina. I was close. Columbia. All right. The questions are slowing down, and I can also slow down as well. I know it's been a long stream. There's one. Ben Holmes is texting me. That's funny. How to define a certain folder as a standard location to export my mixdowns. Cheers from Krefeld, Germany. Love me some Germans. I didn't know any Germans in my life until I started doing work with PreSonus, and I got to meet Gregor and Arndt and the team. They're delightful. Okay. So the folder for your export, it's going to go in the folder for the song that you created. So when I hit new and I choose my mix template, this is the default location. This is the location that I used last. This is a hard drive that I use, like a Samsung SSD. So that's what it's going to choose that. And then I'm going to call it my new German song. Okay. So here's the new song I just created. If I close this, oh shoot. Did it actually record it? I think if you don't actually do anything, it doesn't actually save it. Doy. Let's do it again. Mine German song. And I'm going to just do something to this so that it will save it for me. All right. Saved. All right. Now, if I hover over this, it's going to tell me that this is in the 1 terabyte gray. That's the color of the hard drive. So if I right-click on it, I can go Show in Finder, and it shows me this is what's in that folder. Now, and that is inside a folder with the same name. So this is the folder, this is the song file. As I record and add things, there will be more folders created. Like this song has audio, so there's some media in there. But when you first have it with nothing, it's just a song file. Yeah? When I go to export that song, let's say this one, let's open up this one. This is the challenge we're doing in VIP this month. If I hit Export Mixdown, it's going to default to putting it in that folder into a new folder that's going to create called Mixdown. And it's going to name it Mixdown Test. And it's going to do its thing. It's going to create a folder called Mixdown, and it's going to drop this MP3 into that folder and actually open it for you. So I can see, it made a new folder called Mixdown. That's where it goes, but you can always change that. I think that's a great place for it. But if I was going to export this and I say, you know what, I want to put this right in my Dropbox folder called Listen so I can listen to this later, then I just select that folder and then go. But it's going to default to the song folder, which I think makes sense. I don't know if there's a way to change that, if that's what you're asking. If so, that was a long way of telling you I don't have an answer for you. Sorry. Anna, you remember back in the Dueling Mixes days. Back in the day. Well, thanks for being there. The bearded one is here. I'm just about to sign off, Chris. You're just too late, my man. Just always too late. And I miss seeing your face at NAMM. Got to see your partner, though. And he's delightful. Durkins. But I missed you a lot. But yeah, I don't know if you've talked to Steve yet, but we're going to do something. I think a song. Because this is one of the first times it makes a whole lot of sense, because you could do the drums, Steve can do the keys and vocals, and I can do like guitar and bass, and I think you do bass too. Like, and just, we could make that happen. So let's figure that out. Ron, thank you. Yeah, Brandon, I don't know. I can't imagine there's a lot of sills in the world. What do you think about AI stem splitter? From my experience, the audio seems to be very phasey and not up in your face from the individual instruments. How do you make it sound clear? Well, it's voodoo magic, right? The fact that it can even pull them out at all, to me, is amazing. The fact that it doesn't sound very good, to me, sounds like, well, yeah, I would expect that. I don't know if other stem separators do a better job. I'm sure they do. I will say the one inside of Studio Pro has gotten better since they released it. Gregor was saying he did one when it first came out. It didn't sound very good. He did one recently, and it sounded a lot better. So my guess is they're constantly improving that algorithm. But I'm still fascinated they can do it at all. But yeah, that's probably not an answer. But Yep. How long have we been going? 2 hours and 28 minutes. Look at us. Should we go for 24 hours? I'm kidding. Do you use the workspace feature for remote collaboration? I don't. I think it's neat. People invite me to their workspaces all the time. I just don't. I mean, I don't do a lot of collaboration. And when I do, it's with people like Chris, who uses Cubase, and his partner, Steve, who uses Pro Tools. So, like, the workspace doesn't make any sense anyway. I did do, for a while, y'all saw Ben Holmes and Nate Kelms were here. I would do some collaborations with them where Nate would mix and Ben would master for a client. And we used the workspace to share files that way. But it honestly wasn't all that great. It was fine. It's fine. It's just a basic like chat and file sharing system. The fact that it integrates with Studio One is cool, but none of us were using it that way. We were just using it just to log in and get files. So there were better solutions. What happened to my friend Graham Cochran? He is a business coach now, doing super well. He just released his third book. Oh, hang on. I'm such a shill. Called The Effortless Business. So he had such roaring success with the Recording Revolution. Went on to teach people how he does business, and now that's been what he's been doing for the last several years. I just hired him as my personal business coach for the last year. We just, around like Thanksgiving, we finished up our year together, which was really fun. So I got to spend a lot of time with him. Got to go see him in Tampa a couple of times. So he is doing delightful. I just had a dream last night that I saw him. It was like a murder mystery. I can't remember. No, I had a dream. I was somewhere and he just showed up. And when I saw him, I just fell on the ground because I was so happy to see him. So he is a delightful, wonderful person, and I'm glad to still have him as a friend. I know it sounds like I'm just saying that. I legit, like, I went through a phase. So he started Recording Revolution in the same year I did. I started mine first, and then he started his a few months later. And like I liked him right away, so we did lots of things together as business partners. But he just blew up success-wise. I did fine, but he did really great, and I had a lot of jealousy around that and a lot of insecurity. And so I've had to work through a lot of that in my relationship towards him, to where now it's come full circle. I'm like, hey, bro, can you coach me in some business stuff? And he's like, yeah, bro. And he says bro a lot too. So now I say bro a lot. I remember having the worst time with missing files, and I realized later that zipped the folder on my desktop. Yep, that'll do it. Yeah, missing files, if you just put everything in the same place and never change it, you're going to be just fine. Got one vote for the 24-hour live stream. That's one. Hey, John, you are welcome for everything. All right. What else? What else? I think we've tapped out. I've answered every possible question. All right. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you watch this whole thing, you are quite the trooper. Glad we could hang out. If you are in a place where there are storms happening, stay safe. I'll be back next week with my normal YouTube and all that jazz. There are some links in the description if you're looking for different ways to potentially work with me. I've got lots of different options of ways to do that. You can check those out below. Everything from working with me closely one-on-one to coming to my next challenge to becoming a VIP member. Lots of options. Otherwise, thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.